Okay, we're going to get started. Good morning, fellow commissioners, Assistant Chief Harrelson, Executive Director Django Sibley, Inspector General Matthew Barragan, Managing Senior Assistant City Attorney Carlos de la Guerra, Madam Secretary, and members of the public. Today is Tuesday, May 12th, 2026. It is 9:30 a.m. This is a regular meeting of the Los Angeles Board of Police Commissioners. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Good morning. Please let the record reflect Commissioner Shield, Tabor, Sanchez-Gordon, and Scobin are present, and we have a quorum, Madam President.
Thank you. We welcome everyone attending this morning, both in person and online. We want to ensure all members of the public can access our meetings, so if you need any translation services or accommodations, we encourage you to contact the Board Secretary in advance of our meetings, as explained in our written agenda. These meetings are regular meetings between the board and the department. We welcome feedback from the public during the public comment period, which will be heard during item number 2 on the agenda. Public comment is your opportunity to address the board. You can speak to any item on the agenda or any matter within the jurisdiction of the Board of Police Commissioners. We will dedicate a total of 45 minutes to public comment. Each member of the public can have a total of up to 3 minutes to speak if you wish to speak on both agenda items and general public comment as explained in the written agenda. While we welcome public attendance at our meetings, disruptive behavior will not be tolerated and will be cause for removal. You will receive just one warning, and if you continue disrupting the meeting, you will be asked to leave and be removed from the meeting. With that, we can move to item number 1 on the agenda, the report of the Chief of Police, Assistant Chief Harrelson.
Thank you. Good morning, President Shields, Commissioners, Inspector General Barragan, City Attorney de la Guerra, and Executive Director Sibley. Today's report will cover the prior week period. I will highlight key events, share current crime statistics, and provide an update on our current staffing levels. For the crime for the week ending May 9th of 2026, the following is a crime analysis based on offense count, except for homicide and victims shot through May 9th. Compared to year-to-date 2025, combined person and property crimes are down 13.3%, with person crimes down 3% and property crimes down 15.9%. Homicides have decreased 9.6%, or 8 less victims. Victims shot have decreased 22% in comparison to 2025, or 71 less victims. Aggravated assaults are down slightly year-to-date at 0.2%, with 10 fewer crimes compared to last year. Robberies are down 7.3%. Motor vehicle thefts are down 27.7%. Burglaries continue to trend down citywide with an overall reduction of 31.4% year-to-date. Residential burglaries are down 32%, and non-residential burglaries are down 30.3%. I'll now move to an officer-involved shooting that we had in Mission Division on May 5th at 12:44 in the afternoon. Mission Patrol Division uniform officers responded to an additional unit request from Mission Area Narcotics Enforcement Detail officers who observed a suspect, later identified as Jason Vega, wanted for outstanding warrants. When the officers contacted Vega, he fled on foot onto the embankment of the eastbound 210 freeway. Vega then ran across the freeway where he attempted to carjack a pickup truck that was traveling west on the freeway. The officers again contacted Vega, who was observed to be armed with a handgun. Numerous commands were given to Vega to drop the firearm, which he refused to comply with, resulting in an officer-involved shooting. Vega fell to the ground, disregarded officers' commands, and moved towards his firearm. The officers used an intermediate force option to gain compliance from Vega, and he was taken into custody. Vega was transported by rescue ambulance to a local hospital where he was treated and medically cleared for booking. A Glock Model 22 .40 caliber handgun was recovered at the scene and booked as evidence. No officers or community members were injured as a result of this incident. Force Investigation Division personnel responded to the scene and assumed investigative responsibility. Year-to-date, there have been 8 officer-involved shootings compared to 13 at the same point last year. We also had an officer-involved traffic collision on Friday, May 8th at approximately 11:30 at night. A 28-year veteran of the department was riding home on his city-issued police motorcycle, traveling northbound on the 101 freeway in the San Fernando Valley when he was involved in a collision with a Toyota Prius. The officer was transported by the Los Angeles Fire Department to a local hospital where he was treated for multiple serious injuries. He is currently listed in stable condition. The other involved driver, a 41-year-old resident of Calabasas, was also transported to a local hospital for treatment of minor injuries. The driver was arrested on suspicion of driving under the influence. The California Highway Patrol is handling the investigation and will be presenting the case for criminal filing consideration. We'll now move to a burglary summary and an enforcement update. Recent burglary incidents across multiple Los Angeles areas reflect a continuing trend involving organized crime targeting residences and commercial businesses. In several incidents, suspects demonstrated coordinated tactics, the use of lookout or getaway vehicles, and a willingness to confront victims and witnesses during their crimes. Through proactive patrol and follow-up investigative efforts, officers successfully identified and arrested several prolific burglary suspects connected to numerous crimes citywide. Notably, in one incident, a witness attempted to assist was assaulted with bear spray as suspects fled the location, elevating the severity and danger associated with these crimes. Despite the brazen nature of the offenses, privately owned security footage and investigative technology, including owner-applied tracking devices such as Apple AirTags, provided investigators with valuable evidence and significant leads regarding suspect identities, vehicles, movements, and associated locations. During an arrest of a serial residential burglary suspect, patrol officers responded to a burglary in progress call and observed the suspect fleeing from a residence. The officers coordinated containment efforts while air support tracked the suspect's movements as a foot pursuit ensued. The suspect was ultimately taken into custody without further incident. A follow-up investigation by detectives linked the suspect to approximately 25 residential burglaries throughout the city, including 14 in Operations Valley Bureau. Investigators identified the suspect as being associated with the South American theft group known for coordinated residential burglary activity targeting affluent neighborhoods. There are also multiple arrests involving suspects involved in smash and grab burglaries of commercial properties. In one of those arrests, the involved suspect was connected to more than 30 burglaries. In total, over the last 30 days, the department has made 104 arrests related to both residential and commercial burglary-related crimes. These incidents underscore the department's continued emphasis on proactive burglary suppression strategies, rapid patrol response, the utilization of technology, and investigative collaboration. Officers' swift action in these cases directly contributed to the apprehension of prolific offenders tied to multiple residential and commercial burglary patterns throughout the city. Recognizing that these burglaries greatly impact the Los Angeles community, the department continues to leverage resources and efforts to combat those who wish to victimize our city's residents and visitors. I'd like to give a quick update on MacArthur Park. So there was a recent joint enforcement operation conducted by the Los Angeles Police Department and Rampart Division and the Drug Enforcement Administration in the MacArthur Park area. It represented a significant step towards restoring safety, accessibility, and public confidence in a community that has long experienced the impacts of open-air narcotics activity, violent crime, and deteriorating public conditions. A comprehensive stabilization strategy rooted in the principles of public education, community engagement, crime prevention through environmental design, and focused enforcement will be implemented to maintain operational gains from this enforcement operation. Officers will work in partnership with Recreation and Parks personnel who are assigned to MacArthur Park to encourage safe and lawful use of public spaces, improve perceptions of safety, and support ongoing park activation efforts. Additionally, officers will conduct regular foot patrols through businesses along the 600 block of Alvarado Street that are currently subject to nuisance abatement actions, leveraging existing no trespassing letters and posted signage to support compliance and accountability. The anticipated community benefit is substantial and immediate. Residents will observe a sustained and accessible police presence committed to preserving the progress achieved through the recent operation. The enhanced presence and environmental reinforcement efforts will further deter criminal activity and disorder while improving overall perceptions of safety within the corridor. The department's goal is to create a safe and welcoming environment at MacArthur Park that all visitors and community members can enjoy without fear. Some quick protest updates during the week of May 3rd to May 9th. The department managed several small protests related to events throughout the city. Many of these gatherings were attended by several hundred to a few dozen participants. All the protest-related events remained peaceful throughout the duration. No officers or community members were reported injured during these events, and no arrests were made. And then finally, with our personnel strength, the department's current staffing level stands at 8,581 sworn personnel, 2,428 civilian employees, and 351 reserve officers. Of our sworn workforce, 410 employees are currently on injured on duty status, 25 are on long-term sick or FMLA, and 353 are working with duty restrictions, bringing the total to 788 sworn personnel, which is approximately 9.1% of our workforce who are not at full duty status. On the civilian side, we have 54 employees that are on injured on duty status, 52 that are on long-term sick or FMLA, and 226 that are working with duty restrictions, totaling 332 civilian employees, or about 13.6% of the civilian workforce not at full duty. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. I'll start with questions from my fellow commissioners. Commissioner Tabor.
I have no questions at this time.
Thank you. Commissioner Sanchez-Gordon.
Yes, thank you so much, Chief, for the report. I want to focus on a couple of points of reports that you've made. First of all, I'm glad to hear that the officer involved in the motorcycle accident collision is recovering, and I hope that also the other person in the vehicle is also in recovery mode. Regarding the MacArthur Park issue, MacArthur Park has a long history of at once being a beautiful park, a community park. My family lived near there, so I remember those days. And unfortunately, it has gone through serious challenges. And I'm happy to hear that the LAPD is working with Parks and Rec in trying to get foot patrols out there and engage more with the community to preserve public safety and integrity with the community. As you know, there's a lot of it's a long-term Central American community there, as well as the Mexican American community. But also in that community are very important nonprofits that service that community and know the community very well. And you know that the community has a lot of issues, especially right now with the federal enforcement. All of that plays an important role with how this community is being perceived. So I encourage you, Chief, to continue to commit to that community and do our part to maintain public safety and trust. And this is one way of, addressing that narcotics issue, which is so prevalent and dangerous in that community. Otherwise, the community is very vibrant. It's a special community for the Central American and Mexican community. So thank you for that report. I also want to ask you about the protests between May 3rd and May 9th. How many protests are you talking about that occurred within that period? Do you know?
I don't have the exact number, but it was, I believe, 8 to 9 throughout the week.
8 to 9? Okay, well, that's an important number because, in 6 days, we have a lot of activity on the street, and they will continue, as you know. And I'm happy to hear that there were no arrests, no injuries, that they're peaceful. And I believe that all the upcoming protests will also be peaceful. And we continue to work with the community on that. And I think last week I brought up the peacekeepers, the labor or union peacekeepers, and I think they play a very important part in maintaining an injury-free, no arrest-free, but peaceful protest. So thank you again, Chief, for that report. And that's all I have, President.
Thank you. Commissioner Scobin.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chief. I wanted to follow up on a couple items that I brought up. One, I had asked last week if the department had a list of how many complaints we received from media and non-media from the May Day protests?
We'll have that for you next week, Commissioner.
Also, another request I had brought up had to do with CPRA requests. It's a hot topic that comes up to us very frequently, and I requested a presentation and report on the topic. I'm surprised we haven't have it yet because I know the department tracks that information. I'd like to ask when we could expect that.
Okay, yeah, I'll work with the staff and find out the exact date and work with Mr. Sibley and get that on calendar.
My last topic, body-worn camera issues, specifically in the 77th Division, have been reported recently in the press. As you know, we spend millions of dollars annually on body-worn, but their effectiveness depends on solid policies and adherence to those policies. Can you share with us specifically what the department has done since the mission issues occurred to ensure greater compliance with the department policies on body-worn?
Yeah, certainly, sir. In the 77th area, as you're aware, there has been some issues recently. That unit has been stood down for the time being. The department is in the process. We send out via department-wide email as well as in roll call training and constantly discuss department policies as relate to body-worn video. That continues. There'll be a larger presence, so to speak, in our roll call trainings with these policies in regards to the most recent incident in 77th. We take this very, very seriously, which is why the entire unit was stood down. That investigation will continue, and we'll see, to what extent the violations of the policy were, but there is a zero tolerance policy for violations of our body-worn video and digital in-car video policy.
Well, thank you, and look forward to the results of that. Obviously, we know accountability on this is imperative, so appreciate the information, and thanks for being here.
Thank you. And I will start by echoing Commissioner Sanchez-Gordon's well wishes to the officer involved in the motorcycle officer who was struck by the individual. I hope that they are recovering fast, and also during National Police Week, want to recognize all of the fallen officers. But I want to spend more time discussing, and this will be for future presentations as well, the topic that Commissioner Scobin highlighted. I think having another instance of a gang unit potentially doing undocumented stops is unacceptable on so many levels. I am glad that the department's own internal sources identified this, but given the fact that this is not the first time that this has happened, and on the heels of what happened in the Mission Division, I worry that this isn't just we don't know what the policy is. And that's what roll call is good for, reminding people of the policy. But I have a greater concern that there's a culture problem that is allowing some leadership that is allowing it to happen. And so, and we have to, and I don't want this to be that in 6 months or a year, we hear about another division having a similar problem. And so I think we need to take, a greater look at these units. And so I would ask that the department come back to us at a future commission meeting to talk about, both and really it's unfortunate because I know that there are some units doing really good work. And I know that some of these significant arrests would not occur without these units. But everyone has to understand that the actions of some, if these allegations are substantiated, is ruining it for everyone else. And so I think we need a better analysis and understanding of the purpose of these gang units and their continued utility to the department, and also a better understanding in regards to discipline as to how the department treats violations of undocumented or improper searches of individuals. And so that'll be both understanding what is happening with the gang units, and then also the how the department views these in terms of discipline. I think it's important to say we have zero tolerance, but what does that mean? And what is the accountability that will be expected when cases like this are substantiated. And so, and again, how the department deals with body-worn deviations generally as well. And what process the department will put in place in terms of auditing and looking at other areas to make sure this is not just, a tip of the iceberg, but making sure that the other divisions are not having similar problems. So I'd ask that Assistant Chief Harrelson, that you work with Executive Director Sibley to identify a time for this to be reported back.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay. I will now move, before we move on to item number 2 on the agenda, Executive Director Sibley, is there a correction to the agenda?
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes.
Just a moment, excuse me. Are we going to talk about the pre-check stops?
That's on the agenda later.
Yeah, so, Madam President, for item 5A2, it's listed as an OIS, but that should be a LERI, a law enforcement related injury.
Okay, with that correction to the agenda, we now move to item number 2 on the agenda, public comment. Madam Secretary, please call on the first speaker.
The first speaker is Clarissa R.
Of the city of Bell, the LAPD must come in full compliance with the City of LA sanctuary policies and maximize protections for immigrant residents by canceling its ALPR contract with Flock. Since June 6, the Trump administration has been terrorizing our community by sending mass men to kidnap families, mothers, fathers, uncles, tias, and terrorizing our community. But LAPD has been seen actively supporting the ICE raids, complying with ICE agents, and cooperating with them. And we have seen this with LAPD helping federal agents by apparently responding to calls for service from these agents. And that is a direct violation of LA sanctuary policies. LAPD should not be servicing federal agents, when it comes to racially profiling and identifying people within our community. Thank you.
Next, we have Sky over Zoom.
Good morning.
Good morning. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you so much. First, I want to say good work, LAPD, on the raid in MacArthur Park. Fantastic police work. Thank you so much for doing that. MacArthur Park has become horrible, unsafe for families, unsafe for kids. You got business owners that have been there for decades coming out to speak out how unsafe it is. A deli owner, and what's even more troubling is that district, I believe, belongs to Eunice Hernandez. Where is she? Not a peep out of her. That money, the $134,000 she spent on police security and these poor police officers that she wants to abolish and defund, yet had to provide her protection is letting that area fall apart. The hypocrisy of it. That money could have well been spent on other things in that area, but not a care in the world. All she cares about is what she can do to dismantle and defund the police, take our hard-earned tax money to protect her for the same organization she wants to dismantle. Another thing, bragging about spending $16 million, I believe, for 64 housing units. Give me a break. Where is the outrage? Where is the outrage? This is disgraceful. We have become unsafe in our streets. We have become unsafe in our houses. LA has become a terror. Where is the outrage for this money spent on this one inept individual who's stealing our money for her protection, yet at the same time working against authority? This is a shame. Thank you, LAPD, for taking the brunt of this. Thank you for what you do daily. We're not even safe in our own houses anymore. And I'm sorry your council people and your board of supervisors don't support you, and an inept mayor as well. Hopefully things will get better. God bless you. God bless the LAPD. We appreciate you that live in those cities. We need you. We need more license plate readers, facial recognition, and we need anything you could do to help us keep us safe in alive in our neighborhood. This is a shame that it's all fallen on you. God bless the LAPD. Thank you.
The next speaker, Michael J. Simon.
Gee, where do you find these people? So I have a very brief message for the commissioners, which is that times change and politics changes. And right now we have an imbecile for a president, and we have various right-wing people who do not, in my opinion, represent the great glory of Americans who have welcomed immigrants since the days of the Statue of Liberty and before. And when these times change, there are often trials and retributions, things like Nuremberg after World War II. There are times where those public servants who haven't been on the right side, the idealistic side of things, find themselves, to their horror, losing their pensions, losing their respect, and ending their days in disgrace. And I urge you to use your consciences to refuse to support projects like ICE, which is a terror to a person like me, whose father immigrated here in 1904, and whose parents came from Brooklyn and came from Ukraine, actually. And I feel very deeply that the Latins and the other people who are typecast into being aggressive immigrants are my brothers and sisters, because like me, they landed here expecting a warmer welcome than they got. So I urge you to use your consciences and be on the right side of things, because the times they are changing.
Thank you. The next speaker, Hamid. Hamid.
Once again reminded Michael Moore's words that policing culture eats policy for lunch. They can keep on talking about fucking policy and run circles around us, but that's what it is. You know, violence, conspiracies, mass murder, and on and on and on. There's several items on the agenda, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about this whole issue of pretextual stops. I mean, again, we see city council shamelessly punting this issue and not taking action on what they have control over. And that's the purse. That's the funding. When they talk about pretextual stops, it's not just some theoretical piece. Broken windows policing is pretextual stops. Suspicious activity reporting is pretextual stops. Predictive policing is pretextual stops. Data-informed community-focused policing is a pretextual stop. And we can look at the whole litany and the long history of that how behavioral surveillance is baked into all of this policing. So they can do circles around us and say, well, pretextual stops, we're not going to do it. We had the same fucking conversation 5 years ago at this commission. And people are here who are in this spot as well. And once again, we see city council coming back. Because earlier Russia was complaining and the woes were about like this whole thing about body cameras. So now, since 2013, 13 years and $81 million later, we're still circling back because the cops are not turning their body cameras on. That's $81 million later. This was end of 2013 when they started body cameras and used Skid Row as a laboratory. The same thing had happened a year prior to that when 93 out of 300 patrol cars, the cops had intentionally broken antennas on dash cams. This was a part of the removal of consent decree on LAPD. This was an agreement they had made with the federal judge. So here we go again. And the last thing I just want to comment is about this whole thing about Sanctuary City. And I know people, these are old comrades who are a part of the Sanctuary Coalition. But Sanctuary is not a goddamn, it's not just a binary, whether it's like, or whatever the word is. Either it is or it's not. You can't be doing information sharing. You can't be supplying data constantly. And this whole guardrails, because I don't know how many people know that on the 28th of April at the police commission, they talked about it, that while the whole world is crying about Flock to shut that shit down, LAPD is busy with the city attorney to draw up a new contract to renew Flock. And they said that at the police commission meeting. So it is something that we have to shut this shit down. You can't be just tinkering around the edges. So that's a message to my fellow activists and organizers that please do not get caught up in this fucking language and this romanticization, because you are doing a disservice to the community. You are misrepresenting the community. You know, here people are making a presentation, but they don't.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Thank you, sir.
The next speaker.
Next speaker, sir. Thank you.
The next speaker. Myra Jody, White House.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Louder. I am sad that this is the second time I've come down here. I do have better things to do, but I feel compelled. The first time I came down here, what I noticed is the police commission asking softball questions of Mr. McDonnell and not holding him accountable. So what I want to talk about, you all know, but it bears repeating. We must say it over again. LA is a sanctuary city. You are not following the law. This was created in December of 24, limiting the LAPD aiding and abetting ICE, including sharing sensitive information, allowing ICE access to non-public areas of city property, banning participation in ICE enforcement. Look, we all know this happens, right? ICE calls up 911, wink, wink, wink. A citizen is attacking me. LAPD comes out and is all too happy to aid ICE. Mr. McDonnell has said he will not enforce the demasking law should it clear the courts, is my understanding. I'm no lawyer. But why do you think that is? It's because agents moonlight. I think there are other reasons too. So Council Hernandez, thank God we have her. Somebody mentioned her, I think wrongly, passed a motion July of 2025 limiting LAPD responses to calls for support. This is what I was just talking about. What is required under LA City Sanctuary Ordinance. This is not being followed. The mayor even directed the LAPD to incorporate community feedback. Is that happening? Under the leadership of Mr. McDonald, the LAPD has not implemented the city sanctuary ordinances. The LAPD did not allow the ACLU lawyer to testify on April 7th. Why not? Is he testifying today? I would like to know. Also, the flock camera issue is egregious. This bypasses warrants and allows sensitive information to be disseminated. Would you, each of you, want your information to be open in that way? I think you're not doing your jobs, commissioners. I thank you for your time.
The next speaker, William Good.
Good morning. So we're talking about pretextual stops again. We've been talking about that since 2022. When the policy changed back then limiting pretextual stops, I said no one's ever going to get in trouble for it because there's not an enforcement mechanism. And now we're doing another change to the pretextual stop policy to ban them. It means nothing because nobody's ever going to enforce the policy. It's constant. There is no enforcement of misconduct within the LAPD. It goes straight to the top. You know, Jim McDonald's not here right now. You guys have a cop on your disciplinary report in January that you guys said was part of a law enforcement gang. You said it, your own words. So I CPRA'd the information because they were involved in a lot of SB 1421 violations, including unlawful search. You had initially 10 days to recognize the CPRA and then another additional 14 days for an extension to a max of 45 days. That was like 90 days ago. I requested it, and you guys have not fulfilled this. Jeff talked about getting updates on the 1421s or in CPRAs. I got to tell you, you don't fulfill them at all. Every journalist in here could tell you the same thing. You know, we don't have a secret police department. If you guys have a gang member, turn over that information so defendants and defense attorneys can take that information and potentially help their client in their cases. But you hide that. As this cop is out there, has been out there, arresting hundreds of people, doing gang shit, and you guys are hiding it. And Teresa, I filed a complaint against the chief for that, and you didn't even accept it. Who the fuck are you? Thank God you're no longer president. You were a disaster. Tabor, you're useless. Fabian's not here. You're no better. You're just a body. Now, getting back to accountability, again, we have this loophole in the LAPD where they can just say something's demonstrably false and they don't have to investigate it and the complaints are thrown out. We went from having 5 or 6 a year to being up to, supposedly last year, up to close to 1,000, where you guys are just throwing out complaints. And then we wonder why we have a gang problem in the Mission Division that was reported years before and nobody did anything about it. By the captain there, the own captain there reported it. And it happened at the 77th Division now. You know what's going on in Southeast. You know what's going on in Harbor. You know what's going on in Rampart and in Hollenbeck and elsewhere as they wear their gang pins. But there's no accountability in the LAPD. When the fuck is that going to change? Until that changes, no policy change matters. Fuck all of you.
The next speaker, Tran San Ha.
Good morning, everybody. Love all of you here. You know, I don't know the history of the LAPD. When I come here, I know I choose this place. We fighting for better America and the war, human rights. So I came here. Thank you for the Chief Jim McDonald, and thank you for all member LAPD here. We already done the job very good to protect the U.S. government and protect all American people right and safe. But the problem, I know they're very scared to telling to everybody about me. If I'm asking Mr. Jim McDonald telling to all American people about myself, then the whole in America will change, and the whole world change is better for all of us. But remember that I'm here with all your support. We will do better for America and change good for all of us. God bless America. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. Pray for me. We already done the job good for America. Remember that. All right. So very important to share my information. I'm here today to tell everybody here. We already done it. Then good for all American people. Then and again, God bless America. God bless LAPD. This play is gonna change the America and the whole world better. Thank you very much. Love everybody. Thanks.
Thank you. The next speaker, Carson Navidad.
Good morning. My name is Gerson Navidad. I'm resident of Los Angeles, and I'm here on behalf of Immigrant Defenders Law Center. INDEF is committed to advancing justice and equity for immigrant communities by providing deportation defense, legal representation, education, and wraparound social services to more than 30,000 individuals each year. Through this work, we witnessed firsthand the profound impact of immigration enforcement on individuals and families. Removal proceedings are already deeply traumatizing, and it is our collective responsibility to ensure that people's rights and dignity are protected every step of the way. The LAPD must come into full compliance with the City of LA sanctuary policies and maximize protections for immigrant residents. When local resources are used, directly or indirectly, to support federal enforcement, it further destabilizes our communities. Over the past year, the City Council and the Mayor have taken important steps to strengthen Los Angeles sanctuary protections. However, LAPD has yet to fully implement these protections and continues to fall short on the intent and requirements of sanctuary laws. We know that LAPD is unwilling to act on their own. The Commission must take action to hold LAPD accountable and ensure the protection and well-being of our immigrant community members. Taking these steps will demonstrate a clear commitment to protecting our communities and prioritizing the well-being, safety, and rights to all Angelinos. You have the power, commissioners, so LAPD can comply. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker, Carlos Amador.
Good morning. My name is Carlos Amador with the Clean Car Wash Workers Center, also with the Sanctuary LA Coalition. Here, speaking here in full support of the implementation of all the protections for immigrant community members in the city of Los Angeles, including the motion passed by or pushed by Councilwoman Eunice Hernandez, as well as the Executive Directive 17. We know the reasons why the LAPD, the Commission, and especially Chief McDonald have sat on the implementation of these policies to disentangle police and ICE. Chief McDonald, once he was a sheriff, he was doubling down on the collaboration with ICE, refusing to end the 287G program that was in place at the Sheriff's Department back in the 2010s. It was only ended when the Board of Supervisors put an end and voted to end that program. Subsequently, 287G agreements were prohibited by the 2017 California Values Act, SB 54. But even then, Chief McDonald, during the early months of the 2017 Trump first term, he was engaging with the Trump administration, meeting with them and actively opposing the passage of SB 54, which ended up weakening that bill. So we know that McDonald has been a strong supporter of anti-immigrant policies, policies that have hurt our communities, and that's why we now continue to come here to seek for the implementation of this full protection. So we're calling for the implementation of protections for our community, full disentanglement of police and ICE, and truthfully, the firing of Chief McDonald. Thank you.
Thank you. And before we move on to the next speaker, I'll just remind people to please put down your signs. This is the only warning. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
The next speaker, Yaritza Gonzalez.
Good morning. My name is Yaritza Gonzalez, and I'm here on behalf of Garesen, the Central American Resource Center. The LAPD must come into full compliance with the City of LA sanctuary policies and maximize protections for immigrant residents. Importantly, the LAPD must significantly limit its responses to calls for support from federal immigration enforcement to only when they receive a federal judicial warrant authorizing an arrest. Councilmember Ulises Hernandez's motion was adopted last year, and it's been 10 full months, and this commission has yet to adopt such policy. We also demand this commission move immediately to prohibit LAPD from assisting federal immigration agents in operations that involve racial or identity profiling and the criminalization of residents' exercise of their First Amendment rights. We cannot and will not allow the LAPD to do the bidding of federal immigration agents who lie and violate Angelino's constitutional right. We call on the Commission to swiftly agendize and pass a pretext stop policy closely tracking what the City Council has requested last week. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker, Sophia Wrench.
Good morning. My name is Sophia Wrench. I'm an attorney with Public Counsel. As law enforcement tools evolve, the means of data sharing has also evolved. ICE and DHS are working around sanctuary policies that prevent data sharing with ICE and accessing information shared through automatic license plate reading cameras. As a lawyer who has investigated the ways that FLOC works around sanctuary laws and around constitutional protections like the Fourth Amendment, I'm concerned about LAPD's use of FLOC cameras because they're facilitating mass deportations and increasing criminalization. The LAPD searched license plate readings on behalf of ICE and CBP as recently as May 2025. We know the reality is that federal agencies are able to access FLOC data and have done so without the permission of cities, including Mountain View, Santa Cruz, Oxnard, and Ventura. FLOC's ALPR hits are then used to create a digital web for ICE to track, hunt, and abduct community members. Regardless of citizenship status, ALPR data is used to criminalize Angelinos across the city, expanding the presumption of guilt. We continue to mourn the death of community member Keith Porter Jr., who was killed in Northridge by an off-duty ICE agent on New Year's Eve. When LAPD allows ICE officers to go unchecked, it puts our community directly at risk. LAPD must be held accountable for their collusion with ICE, both through stronger limitations against responses to calls for support and through canceling LAPD's contract with FLOC. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker, Nona Pittman.
Good morning. My name is Nona Pittman. I'm a resident of Los Angeles and a member of LA Voice. We're a multi-faith, multiracial community organization with a network of congregations across LA County, and we are part of the Sanctuary Coalition. I'm here because we witnessed the LAPD effectively helping federal immigration agents, apparently responding to calls for service. LAPD was seen, for example, establishing perimeter or closures or conducting crowd control during or following immigration raids, which courts have found were based on racial and identity profiling. Despite these constitutional rights violations in cases of federal immigration agents lying in 911 calls, LAPD has remained at ICE and Border Patrol's beck and call. The Commission really needs to end all LAPD involvement in racially discriminatory stop regimes. That includes both the Trump regime's Kavanaugh stops and LAPD's own pretextual stops. We call on the Commission to swiftly agendize and pass a pretext stop policy closely tracking what the City Council requested last week. Furthermore, communities across Los Angeles are increasingly concerned about the use of Flock's automatic license plate readers to facilitate mass deportations and criminalization. As reported by Cal Matters, the LAPD searched license plate readings on behalf of ICE and CBP as recently as May of 2025. We know the reality is that federal agencies are able to access Flock data and have done so without permission in many cities, such as Mountain View, Santa Cruz, Oxnard, and Ventura. Flock's ALPR hits are then used to create a digital web for ICE to track, hunt, and abduct community members, regardless of citizenship status. LAPR data is used to criminalize Angelenos across the city, expanding the presumption of guilt. As Flock continues to criminalize, we demand that LA join cities across California and nationwide in canceling their partnerships with Flock, including Santa Cruz, Mountain View, Denver, Linwood, Austin, Evanston, and many more to come. We demand that Los Angeles cancel all partnerships with Flock Safety with immediate effort. We know that LAPD is unwilling to act on their own. The Commission must take action to hold LAPD accountable and ensure the protection and well-being of all our community members. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker, Audit LA.
Good morning. I just want to ask, basically, if you have a young officer, okay, he's young, just got out of the academy, but full adult, badge and gun, would he get in trouble if he was dating a 14-year-old, say a cadet? And then would he get in trouble if he married her at 16? I'm guessing he would. But James Richardson, he's not a police officer, but he's a security officer for Scientology, and he is on your clergy council. Okay, he's very active and I heard that there's a possibility they even call him if there's a police, like a 911 call, that he gets direct calls. This man dated a 14-year-old and married married her when she was 16, when he was an adult. He was already in security, and then I heard, that he actually may have done it twice. So you have this person, I wouldn't want him near any teenagers. You have cadets at these events and meetings. You have the community. And this man is representing you. He is your clergy council. Okay, and he's a mandated reporter who has probably, I bet, never reported any of the molestations and sexual crimes that happen in Scientology. But yet they're the first ones to beg you, these kids running through, that's a hate crime. No, it's not. It's not a hate crime. These are kids being kids. Don't over-dramatize it, But when they're actually committing crimes, how did this guy get to marry a 16-year-old as an adult? Twice, how's that happen? How does he end up on your clergy, council? Can you please get rid of him from there? And on your CPABs too, you have Janet Whelan. I know everyone thinks Janet's so sweet and cute, but 30 years ago when Tori, who left Scientology and fled, because you have to flee Scientology, you can't just leave. She fled to Florida. Janet Whelan, who's on your CPABs, chased her down because they were going to, take her back. They'll drag you back. They'll kidnap you back. You're not allowed to just leave. And she had to get the police or the sheriff to intervene, and they said, to force them to leave her alone and let her escape. And they helped her escape. This person to this day is on your CPAPs. Like, why? How? Like, why? When are you guys going to divorce Scientology? No more special favors. Why don't you look into all the victims that have come forward? So many, like Laura couldn't come today. I wish she could have, because, you know, there's a new chief. I've never met you. I never got to speak with you, Mr. Chief Harrelson. But there's plenty of victims coming forward. We gave you the book of a victim who, you know, his book is now considered more of a court thing, like not even just a nonfiction.
The next speaker, please, Jonathan Foster.
Those specific offenses that are happening over and over. Hi, Jonathan Foster. So today there's Flores, right? Flores on Today. He had a fake gun, and the officers need head-to-toe body armor. And you mentioned a fallen officer. See, I protected every single fallen officer. They never would have been shot dead if the police listened to me, the chief of police, Jonathan Foster. Corrales, they shot him in the face at a protest with less lethal. They mentioned a fireworks. Was it Corrales that shot the firework, but he was hit in the face? You can't shoot the guy that's not the dude that didn't shoot the fireworks, right? Jones was let off. He shot Valentina Peralta, and they said that it was because the bullet skipped off the floor, but the bullet came from him. Yeah, he's liable, but he's getting off. In 5 years, I've been passed 3 times by police officers. I was doing 25 in the school zone, and they went right on by me with no lights on. I'm inviting 150 million Chinese people here to LA County. They don't need to leave. No one's deporting. They need a better life. Where's your cam, Scobe? You need a cam. This whole thing needs a cam. Whole damn thing. Marine Oscar Asensio, 3rd time DUI. They had to chop off his leg. He's incoherent. 6-year-old daughter died. And the reason the 3-time DUI dude did not deport, he was told twice deport, the 3rd time he's killed a 6-year-old, is the sanctuary proponents. That's who he listens to. That's who killed his 6-year-old daughter, and it's nationwide. So the government is not enforcing on the Sanctuary Coalition. The government is not enforcing. But I think what everybody's really upset about is the method of treatment. How are they treating these people as they try to pick them up off the street that are illegal aliens that need to be deported, who didn't deport? The method of treatment sucks, doesn't it? Right, it sucks. That's what I'm upset about. So, how about this one on the DACA? You know, those kids on bikes, they're trying to assign responsibility to the parents, but the parents brought the kids here, and the children need to be arrested. I've noticed Donald Trump isn't arresting any DACA kid that's on the LAPD payroll. It's a police officer. Hasn't arrested them and deported them. All 10 of them need to be deported, 10, 12, 8, whatever the number is. The Dogtown gang, they shot up Dogtown. Hawaiian Gardens, they have, the LA County Sheriff has the documentation that they were talking about what black family they were going to shoot and kill out of Hawaiian Gardens. This is all illegal alien activity. And I got more to say, but not enough time.
The next speaker is Quinn.
This week, the LA Sanctuary Coalition will be presenting to LAPD, presumably at this meeting. But we have to understand that there is no sanctuary in LA. LAPD and ICE are not opposites. LAPD is the blueprint. ICE is a policing project, and local policing has always functioned as the entry point into detention, deportation, and disappearance. How can anyone claim LA as a sanctuary city while Flock Safety's automatic license plate readers are tracking, stalking, and enabling ICE's abductions? No matter how many any reformist guardrails are placed on information sharing, Flock Safety's ALPR data will be and currently is being exchanged with DHS and federal immigration agencies as a result of fusion centers. LAPD and DHS have long bragged about their ability to information share via fusion centers, and no reform will prevent LAPD from sharing our movements and our location data with ICE. That's why we've been demanding that LAPD cancel their contracts, MOUs, MOAs, and any partnership with Flock Safety. And we know that there's a current MOU about to expire this July, and the city's response to ongoing community outrage over Flock Safety was to quote unquote self-audit and to draft a new MOU with Flock Safety for $1. The city's response is to sell our safety, the safety of my neighbors, my family, for $1. That's why we do not and will not have sanctuary in LA. There will be no sanctuary until LAPD ends all of its partnerships with Flock Safety. There will be no sanctuary and no safety until all weapons of surveillance and policing are abolished. LAPD is the first point of contact for ICE. LAPD will always serve to gather our data and share it with ICE. You cannot take ICE out of LAPD. LAPD and the feds are on 25 task forces together. LAPD and ICE are office mates at the Fusion Center in Norwalk. LAPD tests policing tactics in LA and Skid Row and then shares them with ICE. LAPD tracks us with ALPR readers from Axon, Motorola, and Flock and exchanges that data with ICE. There is no way to remove ICE from LAPD. Safety and sanctuary can only happen when we defang and take away every weapon and tactic of surveillance from the Los Angeles Police Department. Asking for anything else, pretending anything else is the case, is a disservice to us all. Sanitization of LAPD's violence only serves to legitimize them further and to lull all of us, everyone in Los Angeles, into a false sense of security that only puts us further in harm's way. We refuse safer policing and the fallacy of sanctuary when we know that LAPD and ICE are one and the same. The demand is not to regulate the stalker state, it is to dismantle it. Our fight is to shut down LAPD and to shut down Flock Safety and all weapons of the surveillance state. Cancel your current contract with Flock Safety, and you need to release all MOUs, MOAs, and contracts that you have with Flock Safety. Jeff, you were so concerned about the CPRAs of it all. We just sued the city because you refused to give us your contracts, MOAs, and MOUs with Flock Safety. What are you trying to hide? You know that the truth will demand and necessitate an end to your partnerships with Flock Safety, so shut it down.
The next speaker, please. Grace.
Today, people want LAPD to comply with sanctuary policies as if this department can somehow separate itself from the deportation machine while continuing to operate the exact infrastructure that makes deportation possible. But LAPD's own immigration enforcement FAQ from 2025 exposes the truth. Collaboration with ICE is not accidental, it is structural. It is automated, it is baked directly into LAPD's technological and operational foundations. Let's go into what LAPD is saying. FAQ 19 openly admits that when LAPD books someone into custody, their fingerprints are automatically transmitted to the FBI, where DHS and ICE can access them. LAPD tries to frame this as passive information, as if they bear no responsibility once the data enters the system. But let's be clear about what that actually means. When LAPD arrests and books someone, they're entering them into a permanent information sharing pipeline: fingerprinting, DNA collection, retinal scans, real-time crime centers, fusion centers, federal databases. Their identity, biometrics, and existence become searchable across agencies designed to criminalize, cage, and deport people. LAPD does not physically call ICE when the notification process is already automated through the arrest booking system itself. That is cooperation and that is complicity. And FAQ 11 makes this even more explicit. LAPD states that officers are not prohibited from or any way restricted from sending or receiving information regarding immigration status with DHS and ICE under federal law. So while politicians claim Los Angeles is a sanctuary city, LAPD's own policy acknowledges unrestricted information sharing with federal immigration authorities. FAQ 12 states LAPD will notify ICE when someone has an immigration-related federal warrant. FAQ 13 is even more revealing. It states LAPD officers can arrest and notify ICE based on so-called reasonable suspicion that someone illegally re-entered the U.S. Reasonable suspicion, not conviction, not proof, suspicion. We know exactly how policing weaponizes suspicion against Black, brown, migrant, poor, and criminalized communities every single day. So let's stop pretending this is non-cooperation. LAPD builds a pipeline, ICE harvests from it. So this is exactly why the sanctuary city label functions as political shock absorption. It sanitizes the stalker state. It gives communities the illusion of safety, while the machinery of surveillance, criminalization, and deportation continues functioning uninterrupted beneath the surface. FAQ 24 practically admits this when LAPD says sanctuary city is not even a defined term, but merely a perception. That is the point, because sanctuary branding helps legitimize LAPD while preserving the exact systems that feed people into federal enforcement. You cannot have sanctuary while operating fusion centers built after 9/11 to integrate local, state, and federal intelligence sharing. You cannot have sanctuary while maintaining biometric databases, ALPRs, and real-time crime centers that make every person trackable and searchable. You cannot claim to protect immigrants while continuing to expand policing infrastructure itself. The problem is not that LAPD needs better reforms or stronger guardrails. The problem is that policing itself functions as the infrastructure of deportation and banishment. And no ordinance, oversight commission, or PR campaign can conceal that reality. We need to dismantle it all, and we can start with shutting down flock safety now.
Andrew Gravener, please.
All right, so I go ahead and start off with 8 minutes and 59 seconds on the clock, please, because that's what Harrelson got. So we all should get it too. So the chief's report should be delivered in writing. The chief has shown and his friends have shown no willingness to keep the report to a reasonable amount of time. So this is a better solution to ensure everyone can be heard, both in person and on the phone. Jeff, it was Scobin. It was very cute how you were told to file a CPRA request. So I've filed CPRA requests before, and they're supposed to fill it within like a couple weeks. And every time they do it, it's like 8 months to get it back. And half the time, they come up with some excuse why they can't do it. It's always different. They're really creative with their excuses as to why they can't get you this record, why they can't get you that record. I filed a CPRA once just to see what they were talking about me in emails, and they decided to announce that they were redacting everything. And they literally, I'm not joking, sent me a few emails I had sent in public comment for this commission. That was what they decided they could send me, and everything else had to be redacted. So, yeah. So we have the consent agenda. We have a police dog, or it looks like we've got hardware and subscriptions for the police dog. The LAPD K9 unit gets their dogs from a kennel named after the bunker that Hitler hid out in at the end of World War II. Just in case anyone wasn't aware. So there's all kinds of stuff about gang and narcotics division, such. You know, it's really interesting how pretty much every time there's a gang division, that gang division ends up being found to be a gang themselves. Every single time. The gang unit is a gang. So what's going on with that? So we have some presentations related to ICE raids and things like that. So the LAPD continuously aids and abets in ICE kidnappings. Jim McDonnell lies about it, and this commission refuses to do anything about it. City Council insists that you all need to put in the policies to fully commit LAPD to the Sanctuary City Ordinance, which already is a weak one anyway, but this commission has absolutely refused to do that. It's never been on the agenda, putting a formal LAPD sanctuary policy on there. They've never discussed it. They've literally never considered doing that. So then there's the pretextual stop stuff. Now it would be not great if that policy could be put in place. It's not going to stop all the harm, of course. And this commission and the LAPD chief are very unlikely to enforce it, which is another whole problem.
Thank you. And Madam President, we have reached the allotted time for public comment. And we have 16 cards left.
Given our lengthy agenda, and we have still 16 more cards to go, I will extend the public comment period, but limit everyone to a 2-minute period moving forward. And if there are individuals, if you are disrupting the meeting, you will be asked to leave. This is the opportunity to have an extended period of time given the number of people here So please call our next speaker.
The next speaker is Sadie.
To shut down your collaboration with ICE and your sanctuary city is fake. You do not protect immigrants and your community of LA. First, who is the surveillance protecting? Who asked for this surveillance? LAPD allows ICE to kidnap neighbors and allows officers to stalk ex-partners using Flock. Your officer followed an ex-partner's license plate over 100 times to track her location. Is this the safety you're trying to uphold? Is this the safety you want? You bear responsibility for your officers harassing and violating LA community members. You kidnap our neighbors and harm our communities. Where is this safety? Your surveillance technology benefits only your policing project as a history of violence and harassment. Do you feel safe using this? This is the technology you contract and seek from surveillance technology. Our neighbors and our friends are tracked and brutalized to uphold a quote-unquote standard of safety. What standard is this? Do you believe that stalking and harassment is a level of safety? Do you want your history of stalking and surveillance to harm our communities using ICE, using Flock? What technology is this proven to allow? What reform? The reform project is not going to work. As I said, the history is already violent and the surveillance technology is already used. You must shut down the sanctuary city. It is fake. I see that to protect and to serve. I don't believe that you do that.
Thank you. The next speaker, Aiden.
All right, well, I only have 2 minutes, so I'll make it brief. But as I say every week, the purpose of a system is what it does. These pigs sit here every fucking week, limiting public comment. Why limit public comment? Your job is to listen to the people and do what they say. Figure it the fuck out, pay attention, learn how to listen, and learn how to sit through a couple hours of public comment if you're not going to do your fucking jobs. If you actually held the police accountable, none of us would need to be here. But in order to hold the police accountable, you would need to fully abolish and dismantle the entire thing. Because every element of it from the ground up is corrupt. Officers on the ground do not fill out their reports. Officers on the ground are violent. Officers on the ground are racist. Command staff is racist. Command staff facilitates, organizes, and disseminates information that leads to police violence. How does this happen? You motherfuckers enable it. And to have people come in here and ask this commission to do anything is respectfully laughable. These people are not going to do shit to help us. Focus on what they do, not on what they say. As many speakers before me have mentioned, this commission has never even discussed trying to formalize LAPD's policy surrounding sanctuary cities. This is because the sanctuary city is a myth. The sanctuary city is a politically convenient talking point when a mayor or city council person wants to get votes. Sanctuary cities do not keep us safe as long as the LAPD is allowed to exist in the way they do. Defund the police, abolish this piece of shit commission. The fucking chief isn't even here, and the deputy assistant chief who's normally here to fill in for him isn't even here either. Teresa Sanchez Gordon, is trying to pick fights with fucking children. Rosh is mad because people are holding up signs. Fabian's not even fucking here.
Next speaker, please.
The next speaker is Michael.
And
the next speaker, please, Michael. Okay. Going on to the next one, Leslie. Sheila.
Rasha, you don't get to pretend like you're a good guy by allowing everyone to speak, but cutting their time. That is the bare minimum. Allow everyone to speak for the full time. You're supposed to represent us. That means you must not only hear us, but listen to us. I find it interesting that McDonald is not here when he is openly against Push LA Coalition's motion to end pretext stops and consent searches. I'll get back to that in a moment. And when people are here to talk about sanctuary policies that the department is already defying. McDonald, as a collaborator with ICE, not only as sheriff, but also as the chief, while defying a state law about ICE concealing their identities, but while also covering up the murder of Keith Porter and allowing ICE agents like Brian Palacios to walk the streets, furthering the grief of a family and further endangering everyone. Fire McDonald. Pass and fully implement the motion to end pretext stops and consent searches. Pretext stops are nothing more than legalizing driving by legalizing cops pulling people over for driving while black. It is LAPD's equivalent to stop and frisk. These stops do nothing other than traumatize black communities. Not shockingly, these stops disproportionately affect black people and do not contribute to safety in any way. They are antithetical to safety. All of this to the tune of $77 million annually. Let's make this clear. The idea of consent searches is a joke. I understand that LAPD has an issue with understanding consent as evidenced by the harassment, rape, and sexual assault rampant within the department and within the cadet program. But as a reminder, consent when a person has a gun or a power differential, such as a badge, is not fucking consent. Shut down Flock and fully implement the Sanctuary City motion. Stop collaborating with ICE in any way. Although let's make it clear, there is no sanctuary in the city while LAPD exists. A city that spends almost 50% of the general fund is not a sanctuary. A city that spends almost $4 billion on the police is not a sanctuary. It is a police state. Rasha, you're concerned about body cams is bullshit.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Ma'am, you've already had your opportunity to speak. Next speaker.
The next speaker, Akili.
If I would have had my 3 minutes, I wouldn't have had to talk over. What, Rosh, you want to threaten to kick me out?
This is your first and final warning.
At least I earned it.
Okay, ma'am, you can leave.
You know, I've said this many times before. You all are much more concerned with order than you are with the conditions of the people that are here. This whole 45 minutes bullshit started to keep us quiet. That's all it's been about. First, let me thank and acknowledge the Stop the Stop Coalition for the hard work that you all have done, the research that you all have put and brought forward around why we need to end pretextual stops, and we support that. However, the LAPD culture, so we've passed policy before, but the culture of LAPD hasn't always supported it, and it hasn't been real. That's my biggest concern, that we can stand up here and the city council can pass unanimously a motion to end pretextual stops, but the culture of the LAPD, a culture of racism, a culture of suppression, and a culture of oppression, does it really translate? That's why we don't trust you. That's why we don't trust the police. We still have to have the conversations. And if you're a black man in this room, you've had that conversation before with your sons about what to do when they see the police get behind them, what to do if they're stopped by the police. We still have to have that conversation. My sons, the 26-year-old and the 23-year-old and the 49-year-old, well, 39-year-old, still roll their eyes when I make sure that they know what to do when they're stopped by the police. So we are proud that we have fought for the ending of the pretextual stop, but we are concerned that the culture of this police force will not support or adhere to it. And you'll do it and you'll find some way around it. And I'm at 5 seconds. Had I had 3 minutes like everybody else, I could make an additional point about why you need to cancel the contract with Flock and why we need to live up to really being a sanctuary city. And you can't do that if you share data with the people who are oppressing us. If I had another minute, I would make that point.
Next speaker, please.
The next speaker, Melina. Melina.
Next. Next.
Melina.
Tandy way. So I want to start by opening in the name of Keith Bursey. And you might say, oh, I thought his name was Keith Porter. You've killed multiple Keiths. Keith Bursey was killed for sitting in his car because an LAPD cop thought he looked suspicious in his own neighborhood. So when we talk about stop the stops, we're also talking about stopping these kinds of searches that make it illegal to drive, walk, or even sit while black. So I say his name, Keith Bursey. Say his name, Keith Bursey. Say his name, Keith Bursey. So we summon his energy into this space. We summon his energy into this space along with Keith Porter, along with so many who've been killed by LAPD, the same LAPD that you refuse to hold accountable. I think you neglect what your role is. You think somehow by serving on a police commission, maybe you'll be the next Lou Calanche who's working to unseat Ioannis Hernandez, who's working to do the bidding of an LAPD rather than hold LAPD accountable. You think somehow it'll catapult your wannabe reality star career, Teresa. You need to think about why you were appointed, Russia. Did y'all know that Russia defends white-collar criminals? Did y'all know I was sitting here going, who is this person? And I looked at the list of clients she defends. She defends white-collar criminals. So why would Mayor Bass appoint her? Because she is not here to represent the people. She's here to represent another criminal in the body of LAPD. And so we need to think about who she is.
Next speaker, please. Thank you, ma'am. You've had an opportunity to speak. You had an opportunity to speak, ma'am. This is your first and final order. Okay, ma'am, you're going to be asked to be removed from the meeting. You are disrupting this meeting, ma'am. We're not having an opportunity to continue this meeting without your disruption.
Everybody else had 3 minutes. She should have 3 minutes.
And I'm going to ask the Sergeant at Arms, please remove this person from speaking. We have already given you multiple warnings, and we cannot continue this meeting without your cooperation. And the commission will take a short recess. Let's break into a recess. Okay, we are back. We are back from recess. We will continue with public comment unless the entire group disrupts the meeting again, and then I will be forced to clear the room if there's a continued disruption. So let's move on to the next speaker, please.
The next speaker is Chauncey. Chauncey.
If you could find my part at some point, I'd appreciate it.
And ma'am, that is your first and final warning. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Chauncey Smith with Catalyst California and the Push LA Coalition. I was here and presented to the Commission in March on pretextual stops. I'm here to call for the Commission to implement the motion that was recently passed by the LA City Council, which calls for a categorical ban on all stops for equipment violations and administrative violations. In addition to that, I'm also here in support of efforts to end all LAPD collaboration with federal immigration enforcement. Pretextual stops are extremely problematic for 3 reasons. They're racially biased. Data show that black people are 31% of stops for minor traffic violations, but only account for 8% of the population. They're extremely ineffective. Often these stops involve so-called consent searches, which fail 9 out of 10 times. And they're an extreme waste of public dollars. Research shows that stops for minor traffic violations annually waste over $77 million by the city of Los Angeles. So for these reasons, the Commission should immediately and without delay adopt a new policy for LAPD. In addition to that, there's been an argument offered up by the police department on numerous occasions that, hey, these stops should occur because they're constitutionally permissible. Well, if you look at the history of our nation, there's a lot of things that have been constitutional that on the backside of history, we realize are extremely wrong. Slavery was once justified under the grounds that it's constitutional. And it was also argued as to be something that was safe for communities. Same thing with segregation and Jim Crow. They were once constitutionally permissible and society accepted them. On the backside of history, we see that it's extremely wrong. So pretextual stops, they sit in the same legacy. They're the most recent version of racially biased harm that's playing out under the sanction of law. And the Commission should immediately adopt a policy to end this harm, despite the fact that they may be constitutional. And the same thing comes when it comes to immigration enforcement. We need to end all collaboration with ICE to protect all communities, especially Black and Latinx folks.
Thank you. The next speaker, Nancy Mesa.
Good morning, commissioners, and good morning, Inspector General Bruin alumni, Mr. Barragan. My name is Nancy Mesa, and I'm here with the National Day Labor Organizing Network. For the past 25 years, we have fought both for the civil and human rights of workers and also immigrant workers, the same immigrant workers and day laborers that have been a target by the Department of Homeland Security since the escalated ICE siege in Los Angeles on June 6th, right, which we're about to near our 1-year anniversary. Yes, our 1-year anniversary. And I just want to say, for folks who are wondering where McDonald is, according to LA reporter Elizabeth Joe, he is attending National Police Week in Washington, D.C. So that is where he's at. And in terms of Endelon, Endelon has, for the past 25 years, has been fighting to end what we call polymedia collaborations, right? These collaborations, dangerous collaborations between police and ICE. Why? Because they put our community in danger, right? And they fuel the deportation machine. But as Endelon, we've also been, head to head with Jim McDonnell because he has been one of the most vocal opponents to our state policies, right, such as the California Values Act. He has been a strong opponent, right, to our fight against polymedia collaborations. And during his tenure as sheriff, right, and I would say this is his leadership, right, it's not failed leadership, but during his tenure as sheriff, he was running a department that was rampant with deputy gangs, right, the bandidos, Grim Reapers, right, that are still under investigation. So when folks are here bringing up deputy gangs, it's not kind of like a myth, right? This is a reality. And most importantly, Chief McDonnell lost his reelection bid as sheriff because of that stance. So we're here at the commission because we know we cannot trust LAPD and especially Chief McDonnell to uphold our sanctuary laws on his own. His own track record has shown the opposite, and we need y'all's courage and leadership. Thank you.
Megan.
Rasha, you cared for optics and for nothing else. And I appreciate the little show that you made for the cameras today, as that was the most critical I've ever heard you be of LAPD in the hundreds of meetings that I have attended. But nobody's buying it, Rasha. And I'm sorry, it was so sad, so pathetic to hear you say for the first time that only now you're worried that LAPD has a culture problem. Give me a fucking break. As I said before, there's never been a movement for freedom that the police haven't brutally tried to beat down. Not the civil rights movement, not the anti-war movement, not labor movements. And again, I'm just curious, Rasha, what do you think your daughter will think of you in 30 years? What do you think? Because that's usually how long it takes to realize what was up, that you were on the wrong side of history. I think there's a pretty good chance she's going to be ashamed of you. I think there's a great chance that there's people in your family who are ashamed of you right now. And I do think that the cognitive dissonance does get to you guys sometimes. It shows on your faces. You look tired. You sound tired. You look very bedraggled. It's exhausting to be the face of the banality of evil. Teresa came here undocumented herself, as she likes to brag in interviews, and now she sits here polishing the turds of the LAPD so they can surveil us more and feed it to federal databases more, so more of your own fucking community can get kidnapped and deported. It's pretty sick, Teresa. 3 fruit vendors were snatched off the street in Boyle Heights yesterday. A van just rolled up and took them. How'd they know where they were going to be? How'd they know what their immigration status was? How did they know what their names were? That's you, Teresa. That's you doing that. Stop LAPD Spying sent you a letter with receipts over a year ago that your surveillance system feeds into federal databases and directly goes to seeing our community members get kidnapped. It's not too late.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
The next speaker, please, Daniel Wooten.
It's funny because I don't go a week without talking with someone about the $24 billion in homelessness abatement and assistance programs that went missing, which isn't true. If anyone wants to read that audit, they can. But I mention that because you guys have a magical money machine here of $3.3 billion or $3.6 billion. It's been stated differently, but I don't professionally work as a journalist anymore, but I know how to do it. And from one quote of Karen Bass saying there's 8,500 officers, 90% of the money goes to the officers, not overhead. That works out to, depending on how those numbers exactly work, because they've been reported differently, it's $330,000 or $390,000 per officer per year. And after this meeting on Tuesday last week, I got to go back to my neighborhood and see like 30, 40 cops fly down the street, all staggered. I'm like, you guys are late to the thing, whatever it is. I saw what it was. There was a helicopter going around my neighborhood. There was no search or chase going on. Someone had stabbed someone. They show up afterwards. They did not prevent the crime. If crime stats go up, you guys say you need more money. If crime stats go down, you say, we're doing such a great job, we need more money. Now imagine if a union had guns and so they could hold ransom the community for whatever their demands were. And then you guys go and break union strikes. That's what you've done through the entire existence of police in the United States. And then like homeless people and almost homeless people get ragged on because some money was stolen by individuals, but the system worked. Some of those people are going to jail now. And a lot of that money didn't even get spent because we didn't have the money or the time to get those programs implemented. And then we have to give you more money to go and arrest people. It doesn't make any sense. Just like stop, go away, just be gone.
The next speaker, Bruno Weezer. Okay. Haley.
All right, my name is Haley. I'm a South Central community member, and today I just wanted to speak on how LAPD is criminalizing my community and the youth and the LAPD budget. Jim McDonald was on KTLA showing his ass, talking about how They need more funding and staffing for the Olympics. I want to know why. Like, what are you scared of? What are you preparing for? California is like the biggest surveillance state until it comes to LAPD operations. And then it's all of a sudden the cameras don't work, whatever, the body cams don't work, blah, blah, blah. So based off my experience being on a South Central community member, when I leave my house in the morning and when I come back home at night, I'm only worried about one thing, and that's the police. And it's great that you brought up the gang units in 77th and Mission. The police likes to harass and terrorize me and my friends and stuff. They're using flock and Motorola cams to just pop out when no one even calls the cops. They just pop out and stuff. In 2020, Andres Guardado, he was assassinated by the police, and Brian Bostic was also killed by the police, and they stripped the surveillance footage from nearby cams. So that's what is going on in the gang units. Raja, you must be new. And the culture of the LAPD is gang culture. So.
Thank you. Next speaker.
The next speaker is Gato.
Los Angeles Police Department is nothing more like the Epstein files. Real time corruption bottom to the fucking top. Kidnappings, illegal surveillance, flock cameras, targeted harassment, gang stalking. You're the biggest gang in here. The problem that you have now, that the community knows, everybody knows on the streets, the fucking targeted harassment. Paid informants, you motherfuckers are making money on harassing people, institutionalizing people. That's the game. You work with the fucking mental health department because you try to make people like crazy, whatever, when the only criminal crazy motherfuckers in here is you narcissistic criminal motherfuckers. You gangsters, wannabe motherfuckers. You get paid by the city to commit crimes. What do you do for the city? Criminalize, brutalize the city. Make fake fucking crimes so you can put people on the system. When you're the ones, motherfucker, who should be on the system. Exactly the same like the Epstein files. Corruption from bottom to the top. Everybody has a tell. Nobody tells on anybody. Somebody tells. Everybody goes to jail. That's why it's a fucking cover-up. You little bitch, Inspector Gadget. How many complaints are in your office by Kangaroo Jackie, the fucking girl from Australia? And you talk shit all day, blah, blah, blah. You have a cover-up, motherfuckers. Gang stalkers have better houses, better cars than you. Corrupted little bitches on uniform. That's what you are. Don't forget. Everybody knows on the street about you. The streets have different rules. They don't forgive or forget. Don't forget about that. The very same guns you put on the streets are the ones that are gonna get you, pieces of shit. Fuck LAPD, ice booty called bitches. Fuck you.
The next speaker, Angelina.
Los Angeles is a quote-unquote sanctuary city, yet the police is in full compliance with ICE. How ironic is that? The real criminals are the ones on your payroll. LAPD, ICE, Flock are the only ones who are truly committing crimes. What kind of example does that set? The police commission, who are the police accountability, are soft-spoken, very docile, very not there. You guys that seems like support of all the injustices that are going on in the city. I mean, you guys are the ones to blame for it. While the public has spoken against Flock, LAPD is still here drawing up new long-term contracts with Flock. You can't even get them to keep their cameras on. In terms of operations of MacArthur Park, you guys don't care about mental health issues, substance abuse. You guys are just interested in labeling everyone as a criminal and and coming for reasons of there's drugs in our neighborhoods. That's allowing ICE to come in the neighborhood and say, you know, there's reasonable reasons for us to be here to come arrest people, criminalize the Latinx community. When you guys say you care about the community, but that's all I have to say. Pretextual stops, Flock, ICE, and LAPD are all clearly one man, one band. Hold LAPD accountable and do your job and do what's morally and humanly right. Okay, thank you. And then also too, I want to say that little whatever the fuck just happened right here was fucking crazy and uncalled for. You had all these men upon one woman. That's crazy as fuck, and that shows you what the hell y'all be doing in the streets. So fuck y'all.
The next speaker, please, O. Stone.
My name is O. Stone. I wanted to point to room 700. The name of the room is LAJRIC/RTTAC. This is a spy center. This is one of LAPD's fusion centers that they use to mine our data. Stop LAPD Spying went there 11 years ago. The video's on YouTube. And sheriffs popped out the door. The Lawyers Guild also came up. No, not the Lawyers Guild. Sorry. I'm getting a call on my phone. Hold on. Oh, reality. Let's stick to the script, I guess. I also wanted to point out that there's environmental racism through these data centers as well. All this data is being mined on vulnerable native communities and on indigenous territory as well, on tribal and rural lands. A long history of environmental racism and resource exploitation in vulnerable native communities. Activist Crystal Tubles, the executive director of Honor the Earth, an indigenous-led environmental justice organization that is tracking over 100 proposed data center projects on tribal and rural lands. We do know from existing hyperscale data centers that have already been built is that we're looking at anywhere between 300,000 to 2.7 million gallons per year of water being used. Noise alone from the hyperscale data centers is around 97 decibels. For those of us that know what the LRAD is, a long-range acoustic device, that runs at 140 decibels. So 97 to 140 is not a big... Can you all hear me? Not to mention the rare cancers that have been tied to hyperscale data centers, respiratory issues from breathing in these toxins, and the massive amount of energy and electricity that's being used.
Madam President, that is the final card.
Thank you. That concludes the public comment section of the meeting. We will now turn to item 3 on the agenda. Do any members of the commission have any questions about items 3A through 3F? Any questions? Any questions? No. Thank you. Okay, then I move that we approve items 3A through 3F and take the recommended board action. Is there a second? All in favor say aye. Motion passes. We'll now move to item number 4 on the agenda, regular agenda item, the verbal presentation by the LA Sanction Coalition. Sorry, LA Sanctuary Coalition. And as you all walk up here, I want to first thank Commissioner Sanchez-Gordon. You come have a seat in the front here. I want to thank Commissioner Sanchez-Gordon for helping to coordinate this presentation on a very important topic where we get to hear some of the community's concerns, and then we'll have an opportunity to identify potential rooms for improvement within the police department's policy.
Thank you, Madam President. Good morning. Good morning, Angelica Salas, Father Brendan, Andres Kwan, and everyone here that is part of the Sanctuary Coalition. I want to begin by acknowledging and thanking the community organizations, the faith leaders, and activists who have joined us today and who continue to share the perspectives of a broad segment of our residents and communities. We invited you here today because we believe that hearing your experiences, your perspectives, and stories is essential to informing our policy considerations. This kind of dialogue is not only valuable, but it is critical to public safety. I also want to acknowledge the very real toll that enhanced federal immigration enforcement actions have had on many of our residents. I recognize that the manner in which some of these federal actions have been implemented has created terrorizing and humanizing terror and exhausting uncertainty in our communities. When civil immigration violations are addressed in ways that generate widespread fear, it will weaken trust in law enforcement more broadly. And when trust erodes, people may hesitate to call for help, cooperate with investigations, or participate fully in civic life. That has detrimental consequences on public safety. We cannot continue to have our community waking up scared. It is not normal. In this moment, I believe our department must meet the needs of our communities through strengthened engagement and transparency. I would like to see expanded forums, increased outreach to stakeholders, more scrutiny of department tactics, and regular reporting to this commission on those efforts. I am requesting that the department report back to us with potential policy enhancements and recommendations in this area so that we can thoughtfully consider how best to move forward. Our shared goal is clear: to ensure that every person with or without papers in our city feels safe, respected, and able to seek help when they need it. And again, I thank you all for being here, and I look forward to your presentation, as do all my fellow commissioners.
Thank you. Can you all start by introducing yourselves and presentation? Thank you.
Yeah, commissioners, I want to start by acknowledging that I'm deeply unsettled with what happened just now. To have about 10 officers surrounding Melina to kick her out was truly uncalled for. I'm Andres Kwan, and with Angelica Salas and Father Brendan Bussey, we're presenting on behalf of the LA Sanctuary Coalition. I'm also a so-called criminal alien. As a recent immigrant at the age of 20, I was convicted of a felony and I became deportable. But I also got a second chance that most folks no longer get these days and around the country. ICE did not pick me up after I served my jail time, and I was able to come home and reunite with my parents. And with that second chance, I got to go to law school and work as an immigrants' rights lawyer for the past 10 years. Immigration enforcement is constantly evolving. In sanctuary jurisdictions, ICE and Border Patrol have gotten around policies prohibiting local police from assisting immigration enforcement by calling 911, as speakers have mentioned, calling for support from local police. And we'd like to play one such 911 call from an ICE agent. Is there a way to click that link?
Becky?
I see. That's all right. We can keep moving. Just trust my word for it. This 911 call, it was an ICE agent calling in last October, calling 911 in Oxnard. And ICE agents rammed their SUV into the side of the pickup truck of a rapid responder whose name is Leonardo Martinez. But then they called 911 and lied about what happened. Local police responded, stopped Leonardo, and then ICE arrested him. But there was video of the ICE agents ramming Leonardo's truck, not the other way around, and this video went viral. And ICE released Leonardo a few hours later. Just like this call, there is a growing record of immigration agents calling 911 and misrepresenting or straight up lying about situations to help them, and often to help them harass and intimidate rapid responders. Now, this kind of dishonesty is part of the Trump regime's MO, and in addition to a track record in the mass deportation system of utter disregard for human life, let alone folks' constitutional rights. On this track record, the federal government 20 years ago laid the groundwork for the mass deportation system, which has relied on delegating immigration enforcement to local governments and law enforcement. As Carlos mentioned, in 2005, LA County was among the first to pioneer an ICE program called 287G that deputized sheriff's deputies in the jails to act as immigration agents who then pick people out of the release line on the basis of the color of their skin, their country of birth, and whether or not they spoke English. In short, racial profiling. Then came secure communities, which allowed ICE to be alerted the instant someone was arrested and booked by local law enforcement, and would search a set of databases and then, at a click of a button, place an ICE hold or an ICE detainer requesting local law enforcement to hold on to the individual until ICE could come detain them. In our ACLU case, Gonzalez v. ICE, the court found that this set of databases was so error-ridden that it contained thousands of U.S. citizens, and ICE detainers did not amount to probable cause. For example, the Sheriff's Department detained our named plaintiff, Gerardo Gonzalez, for ICE, which had placed a hold on him, but he was a U.S. citizen, born in Pacoima. And in our sister ACLU case, Roy v. County of LA, we sued the Sheriff's Department for holding on to Angelinos beyond their time of release, based on ICE holds between 2010 and 2014, and we ultimately won a $14 million settlement. But during this time, the Sheriff's Department transferred more people to ICE for deportation than any state except for Texas, about 10,000 people a year. In 2017, we passed SB 54, which has protected immigrant Californians and Angelinos from ICE and has kept families together. But SB 54 also gave local law enforcement the discretion to continue their entanglement with immigration enforcement and transfer people to ICE based on a wide and complex set of exceptions. In LA, it wasn't until COVID hit that we forced a moratorium on ICE transfers when the Sheriff's Department kept transferring Angelinos to ICE to end up in the Adelanto Immigration Jail that became a COVID tinderbox. Then in September 2020, we followed up with the LA County Sanctuary Policy prohibiting all ICE transfers and the use of county resources to assist with immigration enforcement absent a judicial warrant or probable cause determination. Since then, there's been zero warrantless ICE transfers from the Sheriff's Department, going from about 10,000 a year 15 years ago to zero for nearly 6 years. Now, we talk about this context because we think it's important to show how the major thrust of sanctuary policies is to maximize local government protections against this through line we've seen in federal immigration enforcement of overreach and rights violations through racial profiling and warrantless arrests. And we do this by ensuring that local resources are directed to local priorities and not used to do the job of the federal government, especially when its practices are unlawful and can be super costly to local governments when they choose to collude, as shown by our Roy v. County of LA case, which cost taxpayers $14 million. By drawing a bright line, local governments can play an important role in not only defending the rule of law by preventing federal overreach, but also being good stewards of local resources and economies. In the city of LA, despite our efforts during Trump 1.0, it took a new mayor and city council to finally pass the LA City Sanctuary Ordinance in December 2024. The ordinance includes important protections, such as a prohibition against participation in immigration enforcement in any operation involving an immigration agent. It also protects against warrantless ICE transfers, which led to zero warrantless ICE transfers from the LAPD in 2025. Last year, Los Angeles survived one of the most devastating wildfires in our history. And as we were barely recovering, starting on June 6, we faced a firestorm of hate and bigotry and violence as the Trump regime unleashed an unprecedented force of militarized mass thugs into LA and the Southland, roaming the streets, conducting roving patrols, targeting certain work sites, basically racial profiling. As if this wasn't enough, we've witnessed federal agents increasingly use force, even deadly force, on people who are simply exercising their First Amendment rights. But when the rubber met the road or hit the road, For the LA City Sanctuary Ordinance, especially the prohibition against participation in immigration enforcement, the LAPD failed and continues to fail to fully implement the City Sanctuary Ordinance and policies. And as Angelica will describe, the LAPD has effectively held immigration enforcement by establishing perimeters, conducting traffic control and crowd control during or following immigration raids.
Yes. Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for having me here. My name is Angelica Salas. I'm the Executive Director of CHIRLA, the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights. And what I wanted to first describe to you is our experience in responding to many of these raids, and also our experience in witnessing LAPD at these sites. I will begin on June 5th. On June 5th, I was with the Chief McDonald, in providing a Know Your Rights town hall in West Los Angeles, where we educated the public about constitutional policing, and where he reassured the public that law enforcement was not going to be anywhere near any immigration enforcement activity, that they were not going to collaborate, and that they could trust the LAPD in supporting their well-being and their safety. That is why on June 6th, when I was called by my staff to witness what was actually happening on June 6th, when all the militarized immigration enforcement happened, I was shocked, dismayed, angered when I arrived at Ambiance Apparel, and I witnessed LAPD creating a perimeter around the enforcement site. I could not believe my eyes. I could not believe that the day before, the same LAPD that had guaranteed and stated that they would not be collaborating was actually creating a perimeter around that enforcement site. Not just outside, as you see here witnessed on the street, but inside the Ambiance parking lot. I was so angered that I walked up to one of the officers who was in charge, and I said, "What are you doing here?" Because I knew how terrible that site was for the people who were there, the community members. I witnessed the ICE officers behind LAPD arresting individuals and taking them into unmarked white cars, while the police held the perimeter. I waited there until every ICE officer left and until every LAPD officer was gone. It is then that family members actually arrived to the site to inquire about their family members, to pick up keys for their cars and the cars themselves, to ask other employees what had happened to their members. I'm here because I'm so concerned because of what I heard from those family members. They were so scared. They waited until our LAPD forces left in order for them to seek assistance. And so I have been seeing over and over again since June 6th the participation of ICE in actually holding down perimeters and actually creating or responding to mutual aid requests for assistance and for providing what they say traffic control. I want to remind this commission that ICE and Border Patrol has billions of dollars to their disposal to do that. And so what I have also witnessed are individuals who are actually calling LAPD when they are witnessing brutal force, where they are witnessing people being beaten so badly that their bones are being broken. They're witnessing themselves being injured because they are witnesses to the brutality. And instead of getting assistance, as they believe LAPD should provide them, instead LAPD is again holding perimeter and creating a barrier between individuals and ICE. What I want, and I'm not sure if we're going to be able to see it, but on June 25th, I want to provide this as a video example of an incident that happened with Andrea Vélez.
Could we try clicking this link and see if it works? Maybe similar. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. The situation for Miss Andrea Velez is one where she was arriving to work in downtown in the garment, not the garment, but the fashion district, and she was arriving to work. She herself is a U.S. citizen. She was beaten by ICE. Her family called the LAPD, and instead of her being assisted by LAPD again assisted ICE. Next. I also just want to underscore the extensive enforcement that has happened. Just the scale of enforcement is so profound in Los Angeles. We've received over 14,300 calls to our hotline. We have verified at the time of this report 2,956 reported sightings of immigration enforcement in our neighborhoods. Our rapid response volunteers have witnessed 477 arrests, and we are right now working with over 2,000 families who have a family member in detention. The whole purpose of the Rapid Response Network is not to center ICE, but to center the families that are being impacted. Just like on the day of ambiance, to wait for the families to know who has been arrested so that those individuals are not kidnapped, detained, and deported in anonymity, and that the families have legal representations for support. Next. We have witnessed activity all across the region. We have created a heat map regarding that. I just wanted to point out to a couple of the activities. No other place has been hit so hard as the San Fernando Valley here in the city of Los Angeles in terms of enforcement, followed by Northeast Los Angeles, South Los Angeles, and of course Echo Park, Boyle Heights, West LA, and Pico Union. But San Fernando Valley has been repeatedly hit over and over again, and it's important that we understand that many of the incidents have happened at Home Depot and Home Depot stores and other places where day laborers gather. Next. The other thing that I want you to note is the arrests are street vending. So people are being picked up at sidewalks, day labor centers, Home Depots, near schools, in retail parking lots, sidewalks, bus stop, apartment buildings, and parks. Many of the individuals themselves are actually green card holders or citizens who are being asked for their status. Next. And then just a couple of items that I want you to note. These are based on 653 very detailed case intakes of the 1,200 families that we're working with. The point that I want to actually highlight here is that 12% were on their way or leaving from work. Most individuals who are being detained are Mexican nationals, then followed by Guatemalans. 35% again detained at work. 64% have yet to secure legal representation. This is why the rapid response is so important. The impact on these families, facing food insecurity, housing insecurity, and then 68% of these individuals have small children, dependent children that are experiencing severe economic, mental trauma because of the arrest of their parent, whether it's their father or their mother. And then 12.3% of the detainees had small businesses. So they were business owners. So again, since we're here with the Police Commission, a lot is said about criminality in our immigrant community. The data shows it over and over again. These are hardworking individuals, contributing members of their community, family members, fathers, mothers, sons, daughters. That's who they are. And yet, this is the militarized force that we're seeing. I believe I want to conclude by saying to you, right now, as we speak, there is an additional request by the Department of Homeland Security to get an additional $75 billion for ICE enforcement to go through the reconciliation process. $75 billion on top of what they already have. This agency has stated that as soon as they get their money, that they're going to go back into the field at the same way And just to point out that in Los Angeles, they have never left. The Rapid Response Network has responded each and every day since June 6th to this enforcement. The numbers might have diminished, but the enforcement continues. Not a single day that includes holidays, Saturday, Sunday, holidays. And so I just want us to really put into motion the protections of our LA Sanctuary Ordinance. There is going to be increased enforcement. Tom Holman has stated they're going back into the field. The question for the commission is, are we going to create the protections and the enforcement and really force our LAPD to use our resources to protect our community and not to be a fortifying force for ICE and CBP? And I do want to say that we have been working with LAPD, trying to advance some of the further protections for our community. I think that this conversation has to move from a conversation to actual actions and protections for our community. And thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak to you today.
Good morning. My name is Father Brendan Bussey. I'm the pastor at Dolores Mission Catholic Church in Boyle Heights, clergy leader also with LA Voice, a member of the Sanctuary Coalition. LA Voice is an interfaith, interracial network of congregations across Los Angeles County. At Dolores Mission, we have a long history of doing the work of bringing people together and keeping them safe. We are the birthplace, as you know, of Homeboy Industries, the largest gang rehabilitation and reentry program in the world, and Proyecto Pastoral, who founded, organized, and led the Boyle Heights Immigrants' Rights Network, which has coordinated our rapid response efforts, serving and protecting our community since this most recent wave of cruel and chaotic immigration enforcement began in early June. It is to say, we know something of what it means to serve and protect. Serving and protecting safety and sanctuary, not just as a policy, but as a people, as a place. For nearly half a century, we have been working with our local community leaders to provide hospitality, to keep our community safe by reaching out to those in need and welcoming all who come through our doors. We are a safe place, which makes our wider community a safer place. We know that all who come to our doors and who live and work in our neighborhoods, even those who act out, even those who break laws, even those who cause harm, they don't need any more punishment, more than they've already suffered. They need hope and they need healing. At Dolores Mission, we know that safety and sanctuary go together. As a Catholic parish administered for almost 50 years by Jesuit priests, we are committed to the care of the whole person, and we know that we can't care for any person if we're not caring for their whole family, because families are sacred and families aren't safe unless the communities they live in are safe and thriving. Safety and security are realized most fully when we live and work together in relationships of trust and integrity. I'm here today because I think the integrity of our social relationships, our institutions and structures, our moral integrity as human beings has been deeply harmed. I was at the Ambiance raid in the Fashion District on June 6th that kicked off a terror campaign and assault on our city that we saw throughout the summer. A campaign that, as we all know, moved through several other cities and culminated in the federal government and what I would say a so-called law enforcement agency brutally abusing the law, terrorizing communities, and murdering American citizens, exercising their rights, defending those of their neighbors and friends. I have stood with parishioners and community members as their families have been terrorized and torn apart by this merciless attack on our community and on the constitutional rights of all people in this land, regardless of their legal status. We know that human rights and moral imperatives don't stop at the doors of detention centers, immigration courts, or border crossings. As a native Angelino, I deeply believe that one of the greatest strengths of our city is that it is a multinational, multicultural, diverse place, maybe more than any place in the world. We know that creativity is better than cruelty, that diversity is better than division, and that our humanity must always be greater than our nationality. Our humanity must always be greater than our nationality. We are a community of prophets and poets who are proud to make good on the promises of sanctuary, the fundamental belief that this is a sacred place and that all people are welcome and worthy of our care and concern. Over my years at Dolores Mission, I have known many officers in the Los Angeles Police Department who have expressed their gratitude for the ways in which sanctuary policies have actually made their jobs safer, more effective in the community. Since this summer, I have stood on the streets with officers in the aftermath and confusion of reckless behavior on the part of federal agencies, smashing cars in our city streets, as we just saw yesterday over by Ramona Gardens, drawing weapons on unarmed mothers and their children, using military-grade flash grenades and tear gas to execute simple traffic stops. I've seen officers complain to me about things that they know or would not be acceptable in this department, but stand by and watch as a federal agency does freely. This list goes on and on. Officers that I know have expressed sadness and confusion and frustration at the abuses that they've seen by an unhinged federal agency set loose on their own neighbors and friends and families. They know what we are here to affirm, that this behavior is something worse than incompetence. It is state-sponsored cruelty and violence, and it is the kind of behavior that we cannot support or defend, the kind of abuse that sanctuary policies are designed to stop. I think we're here today to ask the Commission to please review, again, these sanctuary policies, the ones that have been in place, as imperfect as they may be, the ones that have been in place now for many months and have yet to be fully adopted by the Los Angeles Police Department. We know that to be a safer city is not to be a city without immigrants, but rather to be a city where all are welcome and supported by communities and institutions of integrity that they can trust. I encourage any moves towards greater transparency regarding LAPD engagement with ICE, because I hope that transparency will continue to lead to greater accountability by helping this commission to fulfill its responsibilities, ensuring that all levels of LAPD are in compliance with the laws and ordinances set forth by the duly elected representatives of our city, not to speak to the laws of God. This should speak to all of our hearts as human beings in this place.
Thank you, Father Brennan. Just to conclude, in July last year, the community took charge, and besides ramping up rapid response with CHIRLA and other groups and mutual aid, we sued the Trump regime for using unlawful stop and arrest practices. In this case, courts found that the immigration rates were based on racial and identity profiling. And while the Supreme Court stayed the district court's temporary restraining order that we got in July last year, effectively endorsing racial profiling through what's known now as Kavanaugh stops, we're still litigating this case and will be seeking a preliminary injunction. The City Council also took responsibility last July, as many speakers mentioned, by passing a motion brought by Councilmember Eunice Hernandez requesting that this commission consider implementing policy limiting LAPD responses to calls for support involving immigration enforcement. To this day, however, more than 10 months later, the commission has yet to move on the City Council motion. So our recommendations are pretty simple, frankly, and we've kept it broad, and we will follow up. We'll follow this presentation with a detailed letter with specific recommendations on how we can ensure a full compliance with the City of LA's sanctuary ordinance and policies and SB 54. Mainly, we urge today that the Commission respond immediately to the City Council motion without any further delay by working with the LA Sanctuary Coalition to develop a policy limiting LAPD responses to calls for support. And we urge you to adopt the policy before the year mark of the Council motion, so by July 1st. At a bare minimum, the Commission should prohibit LAPD from responding in immigration operations that involve racial or identity profiling and the repression of Angelenos' exercise of their First Amendment rights, which again has been the remo, and there's judicial findings on this, not only in our Vasquez Perdomo case, but in our LA Press Club case, which is a case about Angelenos' First Amendment rights. And the LAPD should not be using city resources to set the scene for federal agents to launch the kind of militarized assault in our communities that Angelica and Father Brendan talked about. And while we're at it, and you've heard the echoes from the speakers during public comments. The commission really should end all LAPD involvement in racial profiling and racially discriminatory stops. And this includes Covenant stops, as well as the LAPD's protectual stops. And so we join Push LA and call on the commission to immediately pass a pretext policy tracking the city council motion last week. It's been time. Finally, we urge you to end the FLOG contract and turn off and deactivate all FLOG cameras. To end, as you can see here today and in our recommendations and the speakers, our movement is intersectional, based in solidarity. And I want to end with a story with that I take immense inspiration from a day laborer I interviewed at the Adelanto Immigration Jail, who had been arrested during the so-called Operation Trojan Horse in August last year, when Border Patrol agents under Bobino came to the Home Depot by MacArthur Park and lured day laborers by approaching them in a Penske truck full of agents. By the time I met him, he had signed voluntary departure. But even though it wouldn't help him at all, he still sat with me for almost 2 hours to provide us his declaration for our Vasquez Perdomo case, to submit to the court as further evidence of the Fed's practice of racial profiling. He said he was doing it for the people, so that we could stop another day laborer, another person, from being profiled and brutalized as he was. Commissioners, this is the kind of solidarity we need during these times, a solidarity that goes beyond narrow self-interest and that really is loving our neighbor and providing safe sanctuary for all.
Thank you all so much for that heartfelt presentation. Before I turn it over to my fellow commissioners, I'd like to ask the Inspector General. I know you've been working with LA Sanctuary Coalition as well as other organizations on this topic, and I know we'll be hearing from the Inspector General's office relating to the department's, compliance with ED 17. But I wanted to give you an opportunity to share your thoughts as well.
Thank you, President Shields. As I've been reporting monthly, it's been important that we provide oversight of the department's interactions with federal law enforcement. And so we've worked with the department to make sure that their search to identify incidents is fulsome and that we're not missing any interactions with federal law enforcement engaged in immigration enforcement. So I will assure you that our police special investigators are reviewing body-worn video and any incident reports, and we'll be reporting on that monthly. We'll also complete a report that will be published so that we can share recommendations about what we're learning. I also want to thank LA Sanctuary Coalition and groups that we've worked with through ED 12. I've been engaged in conversations around protests, making sure that May Day's march, we had department representatives who were working to understand concerns based on immigrants' rights and faith-based groups. So my office remains committed to listening to community members about their concerns and then performing audits or reviews of areas. And many of these issues that you've noted, we are evaluating right now. And so we do hope to help better inform the discussion through an independent lens. And I just want to, again, thank you for your thoughtful presentation and for being a collaboration with my office. And last, I want to thank the Office of Immigrant Affairs, Claudia Argon, who's also been able to reach out and include my office in the city's ongoing work. I think it's important that we have a citywide approach to ensuring that oversight and public safety and responsiveness to all Angelenos during this very difficult time, we're bringing all resources to this. So thank you very much, President Shields.
Thank you. Let me turn it over to Commissioner Sanchez-Gordon for questions, comments.
I don't have any questions. I think you've made your presentation to a point that you've answered all our concerns. Excuse me. I think each of your presentations, Andres, Angelica, Father, have moved all of us and have highlighted that, in fact, our city is in pain. and terribly fearful, and that we have to go beyond just dialogue with LAPD, but develop a relationship that really helps with this theme of collaboration with ICE. And I think that the commissioners are fully committed to listening and reviewing and addressing those issues and the policies that touch on that. So your comments, your testimonials, your presentation today is on the record. And not only have we heard you, but the community has heard you as well. I am very grateful to each of you for taking the time out and committing all this time in working with us, with the Inspector General and myself to come here and make this presentation. It is hopefully something that will continue. We want to hear from you. You are what represents our community. You know what is happening in our community. We want to hear from you. It's important that the community hears from you as well. So I'm very grateful to you for being here, and I know my commissioners have other questions, but I think that your statements today, your testimonials, your briefing on what is really happening in our city is so important. So thank you again. Commissioner?
Thank you. Commissioner Tabor.
Thank you for
Use the mic.
just turn it off again. All right, here we go. Thank you for your presentation today. Thank you also for the work that you've done for some time now. I'm familiar both with Chirla and LA Voice. I actually worked with LA Voice when it was LA Pico, so I come from that experience. I am typically will ask a question about the broad community that is served in Los Angeles by both your organizations, but recognizing that today we're talking about LA Sanctuary City and recognizing that beyond just the physical structure, the community structure, the relationship with families as you've described in your day-to-day helps better, I think, explain what the concern is and why the concern is so strong. We heard from public comment today, and we hear regularly from public comment of the partnership, or as described by those who give public comment, with LAPD assisting ICE in its enforcement activity here in the city. And where we recognize that we've got both policies and practice that prohibit direct involvement and engagement in such a way that it becomes enabling of ICE to do what it is, in my opinion, immorally wrong to be doing. But that's that in and of itself is not enough. We have a responsibility that we take very seriously. We hear now from you. We will hear from others, I'm sure, over the next few days. No matter what our actions are today, they won't end a problem that exists, but there'll be a step in that process. I want to thank our Commissioner, past President Gordon, for inviting you and making sure that you were rescheduled onto our agenda. I guess my question would be, how can we, and you've given us some recommendations, but in a practical way, how can we as individual members of the commission share that message? What are you asking us to do beyond taking an action as the commission? Is there something else we can do to help alert the community, to help build a broader coalition outside of just the Boyle Heights or East Los Angeles neighborhoods that strengthens the message that you're delivering today?
The first thing that I think your duty is for oversight. And so you have to actually work with LAPD to get the information about how many mutual aid requests are they getting, for what purpose. I've worked with LAPD. I would say maybe pushing LAPD for decades. Almost worked with every single chief. And what I want you to know is we've come really, really far. We had come so far around the belief of our community that LAPD was there to not collaborate with immigration in terms of enforcement. And mind you, these are moments we've had situations with LAPD actually was on the phone, 77th Division on the phone with ICE on calling on street vendors. I've seen so much, and yet we had actually through challenging times struggled to get to a place of better. I would say just better community relations, and community relations can be destroyed in an instant, and that's why I need you to understand how dangerous this moment is. And when I talk to officers about this moment, they say that this is a moment in which they're caught in the middle. But they shouldn't. They should be standing on the side of the people that they are to protect and serve. And they shouldn't be caught in the middle. They shouldn't be putting themselves in between. And that's what I need you to really look at. What are these calls for mutual assistance? And then I'll finish with this. ICE hires, ICE and Border Patrol, they hire contractors for everything, private contractors for everything. They have more money than our law enforcement. And what I need you to understand is they could do a lot of what they're asking LAPD to do. Because if it's about traffic, and there's just so many things that they could do on their own, so that if they're going to violate the law and they're going to run, amok in our city, it's on them. It pains me to see LAPD out there when they're committing so much harm against our community. And so I really need you to use the power of oversight. This is a moment that our country is going to look back, our kids, our grandkids are going to look back at this moment, and they are going to ask who stood up for our people and who actually stood back and let this happen. And I need you to stand up and to work with LAPD in order for them to enforce our LA sanctuary policies, and also to really limit in every way these mutual aid requests that often are actually, I think also the requests are actually for lack, I'm going to say it, sometimes they lie to LAPD about what the nature of the call is for. And when they arrive, it's something different. So I think it's important for us to note what's actually going on.
I'll just say LAPD is just getting duped, right? Or just blindly trusting. And Santa Ana PD recently, in January, got 7 calls by the feds to come support them. And they refused every time. Why? Because they were actually monitoring the situation. The feds were saying, we're under attack. And Santa Ana PD was monitoring the situation and saw that was not the case and refused to help the feds. Instead, I would encourage you to really watch the June 25th incident with Andrea Velez in the Fashion District. A community member called 911 for a kidnapping. There's these mass thugs abducting community members. I think it was maybe Andrea's family member who called. LAPD came, saw what was going on, and set up a perimeter for ICE and Border Patrol, not allowing rapid responders, legal observers, to do their civic responsibility of in exercising their right to record and observe. So even the perception of helping ICE and immigration enforcement can decimate any ounce of trust that community members might have. And the community needs to be able to safely access local government, city government services and resources. Now, in terms of the commission's job, Commissioner Tabor, we've had this motion from Councilmember Hernandez, and I believe it was a unanimous city council motion back in July last year. It's been 10 months. You've been sitting on this motion.
So that is the first thing that you can do, because the city council requested this commission, right, to consider a policy limiting this kinds of LAPD responses. So that's the number one thing that you can do. And also, this kind of presentation, I know is rare, this kind of presentation from community organizations and coalitions. There should be more of those, because community cannot be limited on a Tuesday morning to talk for just 3 minutes or even less, when the chief gets, I don't know how many minutes. So this is much appreciated that we can present for more than 3 minutes of public comments and to have this dialogue. But the number one thing that we're asking for is for you to take the council seriously. That's how democracy should work, and immediately work with us to adopt a policy. And the deadline that we're giving you is the year mark from the council motion, which is July 1st.
Thank you, Commissioner Scobin.
Thank you.
Sorry, one more question. Sorry.
Question I wanted to ask the inspector.
Oh, this will be quick. I'm just a priest. I don't know anything about how to do anybody else's job in here. But Catholics are famous for knowing a little something about guilt, and I think that sometimes guilt gets a bad rap, because guilt is really a liberating thing that frees us from shame. And if we can accept guilt for mistakes that we have made in places where we are not yet who we want to be, that's a way to move out of the kind of shame cycle that we are obviously stuck in here, and into a place of freedom and a place of clarity, right? To accept guilt is to say, this is just a fact. And what we're bringing forward in terms of witness and testimony is intending to do that. And I would say every initiative that moves towards greater, deeper inspection and more transparency is a way of maybe accepting some guilt and complicity in things that have happened that we're not proud of. But that liberates us from the kind of shame that paralyzes these conversations and these processes for moving forward. The other thing, I think, like Andres just said, I don't really fully understand what everybody in the world does, but the commission seems to be the place of contact between the political world of the city government and the operational world of the Los Angeles Police Department. And if I'm walking in the park and telling somebody, like I've heard the mayor say, we resist this federal agency doing what they're doing, but then the dog keeps chewing on the leg of the person who's walking alongside me, that doesn't work. So finding greater ways in which what is being put into the streets in terms of the activity and policies of the police department, that lines up with what we're hearing from political people and representatives who are presuming to represent our communities.
And then, if I may, Mr. Inspector General, what we've heard is that other communities, other cities, other departments, other police departments have instituted policies and practice that clarifies their role in representing their citizens, their residents within their cities and jurisdictions. Have you prepared and are you aware of any list of or registry of those types of actions that we can consider including in our effort? And if not, can you prepare something that we can then take as models, best practices that we can implement
in
here
my
in our
meeting?
commission, consider implementing? I want to make one final point to that is, and that not just that we look at it from the public side of the process of what we do or don't do, but as we look at accountability, what we can put in place as a means of holding the department's not just feet to the fire, but the responsibility of both the department and the commission to act when there's a transgression that occurs that we consider to be offensive to what we've established as policy or what we've established as program, and can take effective, appropriate response to that as it occurs.
I'd be happy to brief the commission. I've met with LA Sanctuary Coalition and specifically discussed other policies that exist and have researched this as well. So this could potentially relate back to the public report that I was discussing. But I'm pleased to brief the board about what other jurisdictions are doing and based what we're seeing in the city, how you can consider that.
And one of the ordinances that I would point to is the San Diego one, south of us, which significantly limits police responses to the feds' calls for support and help.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Scobin.
Thank you for taking the time to be here in the presentation. More importantly, thank you for the work that you're doing to support our immigrant community. Father, incredible words, very touching and inspirational. So thank you for that. Few questions that I have. You shared some data on rapid response hotline calls, reported sightings of ICE, et cetera. Do you or any of the organizations involved in the coalition happen to track that by month?
Yes, we actually track it by day.
And do you have, okay, great. I don't know if you have that today, but.
We can make it available for you.
Okay. And then do you, in addition to that, do you track those instances where LAPD officers have been observed on site during those enforcement actions?
Some we do, so we're actually going through and combing through the data because the rapid response volunteers actually, after the sighting, after they confirm it, make a report of what other agency was present or anything else they saw. So we're actually in the process of going through that data to denote where LAPD has been mentioned.
That'd be great to see that data as quickly as possible. I don't know if any of you had the opportunity, after you guys, the department's going to be presenting their April immigration update. I don't know if you have seen that, but, with Mayor's Executive Directive 17, it's every month. And, one of the things that as a commission we've been pushing on is there's the required reportable information, but then there's what's the information that is more, or in addition to, more realistic into what's happening in the community. And so my question to you is, and I'm going to go through some of the info that was there, and it may tie into sharing some of the data that you have. But for April, the report says there were 13 potential incidents where identifying keywords such as ICE, immigration, et cetera, were flagged. Of those, 9 incidents were determined were thrown out. 4 incidents qualified for reporting under the executive directive. 3 of those had field responses and what led to an investigation at the police station front desk. Of the 3 that required a field response, where police personnel responded, in none of the 3 were there any federal agents or any in-progress federal immigration enforcement action. And so my understanding is, and will ultimately be reaffirmed later, but that for the month of April, there was no instances where LAPD officers were called to immigration enforcement. And so I'm curious, as a body for oversight, I'm curious what, if any, data that you guys have collected would either support that or the opposite.
Yeah. It's likely that has happened. So right now there is a stop to the funds that are coming to the Department of Homeland Security. As you've been probably paying attention in the news, there is quite a legislative battle as to whether or not the Department of Homeland Security will get additional dollars, especially if those dollars are going to be tied to some level, again, of oversight and some guidance as to how they're going to operate in the field. So what has happened is actually in the last couple of months, actually, we've had a decrease in the number of ICE activity. And so I don't want this particular report to blur what has happened months before when they did have the resources. I also want you to know that enforcement is happening. So whether it's through the rapid response or through LAPD, our numbers are lower, but ICE is still operating in the field. Why isn't there as much activity? We believe that they don't have the resources to actually pay for their private contractors, which are transporting individuals, which are basically facilitating and helping them with their operations. And so it's really important for me to highlight why I said to you that as soon as they get these dollars, they believe that on May 20th, that's when they're going to, on that week of May 20th, that's when a decision is going to be made about whether or not they're going to get more dollars. And then we're going to see this ramp up again. I think a better information is the previous months before December, when the operation was full blown and the months before that.
And Commissioner, in our follow-up coalition letter, we will also address some of the data searches and reporting and our recommendations on it. Right away, I did read the very brief report, and one of the problems I believe you discussed this a couple of meetings ago about how it's just aggregate data, and it doesn't go into the specific incidents. All of those 3 calls, or where they may have shown up too late, or where they did not observe federal immigration agents or enforcement, who made the call? Was that a community member calling, or was that the feds? That's not clear in the report. So including some more specific information about those incidents would be helpful in transparency.
Thank you. And in your follow-up report, any insight you might have onto what you think can add to that report would be fantastic. Follow-up question for you, Andres. You mentioned Santa Ana PD as of late. I don't know if they changed their policy, if they just made real-time decisions not to respond to the 7, and then ultimately San Diego changed their policy. Has there been any data after those decisions have been made on the number of immigration enforcement actions in those communities? Have there been more? Have there been less? The same? My reason for asking is, obviously, look, there's a mindset behind the people who are authorizing this. So I'm just curious what effect, if any, that position has had on that.
The San Diego City Council ordinance passed fairly recently, so I don't think there's sort of enough data to, and we can follow up with advocates and folks who are in San Diego. In Santa Ana, what I want to point out about Santa Ana PD is that they had responded in an earlier incident where the feds made the same call, and where the feds ended up brutalizing protesters, and Santa Ana PD was highly criticized for showing up and essentially helping the feds. So I think that in context, put them on notice on how to do their due diligence when it comes to the feds calls, especially when, as I mentioned earlier, there's a growing record of federal agents straight up lying to get local police to show up and help them. And as Angelica mentioned, whose public safety are we talking about, right? And I want to lift up that Notice 1.14, titled Response to Incidents Involving Federal Immigration Enforcement Actions, which was updated in March, still directs officers to set up perimeters and de-escalate and direct traffic to, quote, ensure public safety. This is to us just euphemism to help ICE. If you see the video of what happened with Andrew Velez, even the reporter was saying, to any lay person, this feels like LAPD is helping ICE get away with this arrest, which, again, as we found out, there's judicial findings as immigration rates have been based on racial profiling. And so there could be a notice to, as Father Brendan mentioned, and Angelica too, to basically help officers just streamline decisions to not participate in these raids that, again, are violating Angelino's constitutional rights. This notice, 1.14, still directs officers to do this. And I really implore you to watch what happened on June 25th and at Ambiance, because that's what this directive still allows for. And when it comes to public safety, again, I want to ask, whose safety are we talking about? And what have we actually seen? Because it's, besides all the racial profiling, it's been the federal agents who are masked and unidentified, fully decked out in military gear and carrying military-style weapons with billions of dollars behind them. Not the community. That's the agents. And time again, it's the agents who have been brutalizing and attacking and maiming and even killing community members. So whose safety are we talking about when it comes to public safety?
Thank you. Well, I want to really thank you all for being here, and want to echo and uplift some of the things that I heard today, including the fact of the shared goal that everyone in our city feels safe and the importance of that. And the other thing that, really struck me is the statement of, the sanctuary ordinances make our city safer. And I do believe that. A rape victim that is scared to call police doesn't make anyone safer. A victim or a witness of someone who saw a murder that is scared to come forward because they're worried about their safety or their family's safety, that's the biggest problem I think that the department could ever face, when they don't have people in the community who are able to stand up and make sure that offenders are taken in, right? That completely undercuts any public safety in the city. So I fully support the concept of making sure that everyone in our city feels safe. And I know we will be hearing from both the department and the Inspector General's office on the department's compliance with Executive Directive 17. We will be asking for a report back on how that compares to the policies, and we'll listen to those reports first, and then I'll formulate the request to the Executive Director of asking for that report back. So I really just appreciate your input. I do have one question, and this is where I struggle, and I think Commissioner Scobin was kind of asking about that with respect to the other cities. One of the fears that I have is just seeing what unfolded at times when, say, the National Guard came out, or whether there's escalation by the federal government based on actions taken by either the city council, the commission, or others. How does that factor into your requests of making sure that nothing that is done actually creates even more of an incentive for this administration to target Los Angeles? And that this has been an administration that is somewhat vindictive and is not above spending more resources in a city that they deem is too woke. So this is the stuff that kind of keeps me up at night. So I'd ask, how do you view that, and how can we factor that all in to our decision making?
Unbelievable, Rasha. Bullshit coming out
I wanted.
right now, and I'll address it next week since you have public comment before the presentation.
So.
Rasha, I appreciate your concern for people in your city.
Okay,
ma'am. Ma'am.
I'm being dispensed date-rape drugs every single night.
Ma'am, sorry, we're trying to finish our meeting. And ma'am, this is your one opportunity. I'm giving you one warning. Please stop disrupting the meeting. We've already had an opportunity for public comment.
I need assistance in the city of Los Angeles because I'm being dispensed date-rape drugs and I'm being violated. Where I was taking
Can I have someone from the department provide assistance? Thank you. And sorry about that.
So I've heard this line as a reason why LAPD is involved, and I just want to say ICE and Border Patrol, the Department of Homeland Security, and our president, they're going to come and attack us no matter what. And so I want you to note that I see your officers, because I'm in the streets seeing them. Your officers are the children of immigrants. Many of them are young people of color who you have you're putting them in a very difficult situation. I see their pain as they're figuring out what to do, and they're going to do their job. They're going to do their duty because that's what they've been asked to do. And so I just think that this city has to think also about the people who are they're workers. They're the people who are there. They're part of LAPD. They represent our city too. And often they're witnessing what ICE is doing behind them. And for me, I think that this city owes those individuals, those officers, the guidance as to when it is actually deemed for them to come forward. And I just think that this idea that we are intervening in order for the Department of Homeland Security and this president not to do more, I just don't believe that that has actually been what actually has happened. And in fact, in cities, whether it's in Chicago and other places where people have stood up to ICE and CBP, I just feel the community just feels much more protected and safer. So I really want you to look at your own officers and see what you're putting them through. And most importantly, their duty is to protect the residents of Los Angeles. And I also want you to note, none of those any of those officers, if any of them would have done anything like ICE or Border Patrol, if they would have pulled a gun on somebody, which I've witnessed by ICE, and I just want you to note, a lot of what we are witnessing, they would actually be in violation of their duty, and yet they're witnessing another federal law enforcement agency do. And so, I speak here for our immigrant community and our entire city that are families, mixed status families, where you have citizens and immigrants living together. Everybody they live scared. Who's going to protect them? And so I just really want you to think through. Don't act out of fear. This is a moment to act with courage and to really think about all the people being impacted negatively, including your officers.
Yeah, they're going to come anyways. They hate LA. LA is, for all the reasons that Father Brendan mentioned, the rich diversity, being such a city of immigrants, that's why they target us first. And they took that as a proof of concept to other cities like Chicago and Minneapolis. And on that note, I'll say that Governor Newsom and Attorney General Bonta actually put out a statement and made a suggestion that where there is probable cause, police officers, local police, LAPD included, can and should investigate crimes committed by the feds. Like when LAPD receives an emergency call from federal agents that they determine was based on false information, they can investigate those agents for violation of Penal Code 148.3, right? Or if they witness federal agents, as Henrique mentioned, assaulting community members without legal justification, they should investigate those agents for violent crimes too. And so they're going to come anyways. It's whether are we going to help them or are we going to stand up for our community members?
I'm not sure I could say it much better than has already been said, but I think that the call to courage in this moment is really important. And it's clear, I mean, all of us have fears and anxieties and concerns, but we stand on truth when we stand for human dignity of all people. And not to say that there won't be consequences for that stand and the suffering that comes from facing a system like we're facing, but I think we really are called to sort of a prophetic courage in this moment. Two memories from the summer that just come to mind. The Penske truck that we mentioned, when I saw that video, never before have I wanted so badly to have been there first. Because the kind of fear and shame that they hide themselves behind masks and in trucks like that, the last time I saw that was up in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and there was a Penske truck filled with white supremacists that were going to a pride parade with baseball bats and torches. And thank God a rapid response or community member called that in and reported it, and they intervened and they stopped what would have been a massacre. The courage that needs to stand up and say no to that kind of behavior, it was like the shocking parallel that it's the same people in the same trucks doing the same things. And there's a moment where we just need to stand up and say no. And then the other memory that comes to mind is when we had the Interfaith Prayer Service in Grant Park, and the interfaith community went into what was, by some accounts, a very dangerous place in the moment of that unrest in the city, that upset and that anger. And we walked into that space and stood amidst those people on either side, on all sides, and try to bring a message of sort of peace and calm and humanity into that moment. And maybe nothing more hard or horrifying than standing and kneeling in front of the National Guard and seeing sort of phalanxes of Marines literally boxed in like toy soldiers. And the humanity on their faces is what stays with me, right? So I think Angelico's question is a good one, right? To think of the humanity in each of your officers and what you ask them to do, and ask serious questions and come up with clear policies and protocols about what a lawful order really should be or might be and look like, you know? And because nobody's obliged to obey orders that go against the laws of our moral conscience, right? And so we stand in this moment, and I think, and asking all of you to stand in your own ways with that kind of courage. Yeah.
Thank you all again for being here. Well, I think this will be the beginning of a longer conversation, and we look forward to your supplemental report that you'll have with some additional recommendations. Okay, so now we'll move on to the next item. Thank you all. Does anyone need?
The Brown Act allows me to comment on the discussion. I must be able to comment for 2 minutes on the discussion. That's the Brown Act. Rasha, racist.
No, you're not allowed.
Yeah, I am.
No, you're not.
The Brown Act allows me to comment on the discussion.
You spoke already.
No,
Your time
I can
is up.
speak for 2 minutes on the discussion, Dale.
No, you're not.
Liar.
Sit down.
Liars.
Sir, thank you.
Liar.
So we're moving on to item 4B, the department's report relative to the immigration update for April 2026.
Good morning, President Shields, Honorable Commissioners, Chief Harrelson, Inspector General Barragan, and City Attorney De La Guerra, and Executive Assistant Ms. Silva. Since June of 2025, Los Angeles has experienced an increase in federal immigration enforcement activity marked by highly visible operations that have taken place in the neighborhoods and workplaces in the city of Los Angeles. The Honorable Karen Bass, Mayor of the City of Los Angeles, initiated Executive Directive number 12 and number 17 to provide the city's departments regarding federal immigration enforcement activity, and the Office of the Chief of Police in response made us public notice for the officers as a response to incidents involving federal immigration enforcement, and was established in June of 2025 and was last updated in March of 2026. The department's Immigration Affairs liaison is responsible for providing this monthly report to the Police Commission, and the report shall contain, to the extent allowed by law, the aggregated data regarding the incidents in which the department officers have documented or received reports of suspected unlawful conduct by immigration enforcement agents. So I'm here to give you the monthly report for April of 2026. For the month of April 2026, we had 13 potential incidents that were identified using the key terms that we chose. And of those 13s, we filtered out that 9 of the incidents were primarily identified during the filter as unrelated to federal enforcement actions. 4 incidents did qualify for reporting under the Mayor's Directive number 17. Of those 4 incidents, 3 were actually field responses, and 1 was at the community front desk. Of those 3 incidents that we determined to be relevant to the field responses, the department did not encounter any in-progress federal immigration enforcement actions. Of those 3, there was no assistant to ICE, and all those 4 incidents were actually called by citizens. That completes the report for April.
Thank you for that. Before we have questions, I think what can help inform further questions is I'll also ask item 4C to be called up as well, so that we can also get the side-by-side verbal presentation by the Inspector General's office, and then we can ask questions collectively. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Lisa Ridout, Assistant Inspector General of the Office of the Inspector General's Audit Section. I'll be providing an update on the OIG's ongoing audit of the Department's response to incidents involving federal immigration enforcement action. Okay, well, since my last update last month, the Department has continued to provide weekly reports to our Office of Incidents Involving Federal Immigration Enforcement Action. In searching its call log database, Communications Division has expanded its keyword criteria to include immigration, federal enforcement, kidnap, mask, DHS, ICE, HSI, Homeland Sec for Homeland Security, IMIG for short for immigration, and agent. For April, the Department identified 12 incidents that matched these criteria and were potentially connected to immigration. The OIG independently reviews the search results to ensure that all immigration-related enforcement incidents are reported to the BOPC. In doing so, we identified one incident that had not been included in the weekly report, and we shared that with the Department. In total, the Department identified 12 incidents. The OIG identified one more incident for a total of 13 incidents relevant to this report. The OIG reviewed all the incident summaries and where available the associated body-worn video and in-car video. We found that 6 of the 13 incidents involved protest or demonstration activity in downtown LA and did not involve immigration agents conducting immigration enforcement. 2 incidents involved federal agents. In one, agents were conducting an investigation, and in the other, they were serving a warrant. For the warrant-related incident, officers contacted the supervising federal agent on scene, viewed the agent's departmental identification, obtained the agent's name and serial number, and were advised that a warrant had been served. Both incidents were unrelated to immigration enforcement. One incident involved a kidnapping in which a suspect impersonated a law enforcement officer. The suspect told the person reporting that he was an ICE agent and displayed a badge. A police report was taken, and a detective is investigating that. The remaining 4 incidents were related to federal immigration enforcement action. 2 incidents involved prior federal immigration enforcement actions, and police reports were filed in both cases. 1 incident involved a report of possible ICE activity in the area. Officers canvassed the location but did not observe any activity. 1 incident involved in progress federal immigration enforcement action to which officers responded. Federal immigration agents were not at the scene upon the officer's arrival, and the initial caller did not want to meet or provide additional information. Witnesses at scene reported the incident involved federal immigration enforcement. So overall, the OIG determined that LAPD officers did not interact with federal immigration agents at the scene of an immigration enforcement action. Responding officers activated their body-worn video and in-car video when required. However, not all recordings were correctly titled or tagged consistent with department policy. Supervisors were appropriately dispatched and responded to these incidents requiring a supervisor, and police reports were taken when appropriate. 6 of the 13 incidents were initiated by a community member, and 7 were initiated by the department or other entities, but not by immigration agents. The issue we identified with the related recordings has been shared with the department. On April 27th, the department did distribute a notice directing officers to use the newly created, implemented Federal Immigration Enforcement Action Disposition Code. The notice was posted to the department's intranet, and regular roll call training is being delivered at each area. Use of the disposition code will allow for quick identification of relevant incidents. However, Communications Division will continue keyword searches to ensure that OIG receives a complete and accurate list. So in closing, I just wanted to remind members of the public that they may report relevant incidents directly to our office by phone or email by providing the date, time, and location of the event. Our contact number again is 213-893-6400, and our email address is communityrelationsoig@lacity.org. That concludes my presentation. I'll be available to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. I'll start with Commissioner Scobin for any questions.
No questions. Just a follow up. Last month, Chief, when you presented, I requested that all of the special orders and guidelines and laws that are referenced on the first page be hyperlinked for the sake of transparency and ease of identifying the guidance that we're going by. And I don't see it done this month, so I'm hoping that that can be done for next month and moving forward.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Tabor.
We've asked to be kept abreast, and we are being kept abreast. We thank you for both the reporting process, but also the recognition of how this issue is growing and concern is growing. And so our attempts at transparency include your input and comment. We thank you for that. The question I would have is, and I noticed and didn't get a chance to read the complete article today in Los Angeles Times talking about how the concepts of how we might protect the public from any ICE interdiction during the time of the World Cup. And ultimately, the conversation sort of lays over to the conversation of how do we do that during the Olympics coming. So as we're tracking this information and the activities, and as you've heard earlier comment and testimony today about the general notion of ICE and its I won't say fear, but it's concern about how it's been treated here in Los Angeles. Are you projecting that we will need greater manpower and work in responding to the future? Or are you seeing this trend as being leveling out and not being as reported, not being as intensified as we move into the World Cup and then on toward the Olympics?
Well, the department always looks at what we have for deployment and also looks at the activities that we're going to have, and we forecast DP to DP. So depending on what the situation is and what you were speaking about, the department will look at that, anticipate how many officers we'll need, and then they'll accordingly go ahead and deploy to that event depending on what the information we have.
Yeah, and then just to be clear, I'm not so much speaking about all the folks coming here, tourism and others coming to see the games, as I am about ICE using this opportunity as a way to step into an environment where they can sort of mix in with the public and be and take their interdiction activity while our department is trying to be proper hosts and provide public safety in the broader context. Will there be a need for specialization or increased specialization on your part in your department, working through that environment where officers are stretched thin already, but now here they come with their enforcement activity?
Well, the department has expanded its AIC program, which is the Area Immigration Coordinators, to 2 officers per division. And at each division, they have 2 officers that are specifically working with immigration. They're usually from the SLO office and the U visa coordinators, and they go out and they inform the public, try to educate the public exactly what's going on, what we do. And aside for that, they attend community meetings or church events to try to inform the public of the upcoming resources that we do have and the events.
From the Inspector General's office at this point.
I don't think there's anything else that I would want to add to that. I think the department's already responded.
Okay. No further questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Sanchez-Gordon.
Yes, good morning, I think. No, good afternoon. Oh, dear. Good afternoon to all of you, and thank you for being here and waiting. Deputy Chief Hurtado, thank you so much for your support when my last visit to the command center during the May Day activities. Thank you so much for spending that time with me and explaining things. And I think it's very helpful that the commission members here have that experience, because it really is an eye-opener to see how the team works together in really keeping the city safe during those kinds of march. So thank you. I do have a question regarding the last part of your presentation. You said there were 3 field responses and no assistance to ICE. Is that what you said? Okay. And when was that? Like in April? Is it?
Yes, all these incidents occurred in April of 2026, so last month.
Okay, that's all I needed to know. Thank you. And I have a question for the Assistant Inspector General. Could you repeat the phone number and the email address again, please?
Of course. Our phone number is 213-893-6400, and our email address is communityrelationsoig@lacity.org.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah, so sure. Community Relations OIG at lacity.org.
Thank you.
Community Relations OIG for Office of the Inspector General at lacity.org.
Okay. All right. One question I have, or actually it's a request for next week's or next month's report. I believe Deputy Chief Hurtado, you mentioned that of the 4 incidences that did involve some type of immigration enforcement, that those were all individuals, citizens who made those requests. Is that correct? I think for future reports, I'd like that also itemized in terms of who is the one making the request that is responded to. And for the next month's report, in advance of that or around that same time, I also would ask the executive director, in light of some of the concerns that we've heard today, including by members of the LA Sanctuary Coalition, I'd like the executive director to report back and evaluate both the executive director, Directive 17, and the department's policies to determine whether there's any gaps between that and make sure that the department's policies are fully encompass the mayor's directive and also come back with any recommendations you may have of any revisions to the department's policy, and work with the department to get all the information that you need to evaluate that request. Thank you. Okay, so with that, then I would move that we adopt the department's report and transmit it to the mayor. Is there a second? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. And we'll now call item 4D, the department's report relative to the Immigration Enforcement Task Force reporting requirements and department operations.
Good afternoon again. As a son of 2 immigrants and of former undocumented Americans, I empathize with the concerns and citizens may have as persons seeking a better life in America, specifically in the city of Los Angeles. Throughout my career, I have seen LAPD work alongside and continue to engage with many members of our communities to understand their significance, LAPD's commitment to crime reduction, upholding transparency and trust, while continuing to police in a constitutional manner. The purpose of this report is to satisfy the reporting requirements for the California Valleys Act, also known as SB 54. This public report further ensures to the Police Commission that the Los Angeles Police Department prohibits and continues to prohibit officers from initiating any police action to determine civil immigration status and does not involve itself in civil immigration. The Los Angeles Police Department remains steadfast in our commitment to all residents, regardless of background, place of birth, or documentation status. In keeping with this commitment, we will consistently remind our residents through community meetings, field encounters, social media, that LAPD does not participate in civil immigration enforcement. All efforts are towards ensuring LAPD personnel operate within the existing legal authorities and strictly adhere to constitutional policing practices with the goal of making Los Angeles safe for all who live and work here. Since 1979, the Los Angeles Police Department has held a strict policy of not participating in civil immigration. Today, under the leadership of Chief McDonald, we continue to focus on education, outreach, discussions, and more proactive responses to our immigrant communities. LAPD's top priority is public safety, building trust, transparency, and outreach. Central to this is ensuring that our victims and our witnesses feel safe contacting the police and report crimes regardless of their immigration status. LAPD recognizes and has always recognized that the value of every voice in keeping our community safe is important. Our focus will always be to maximize public safety, transparency across the city. The Los Angeles Police Department will remain consistent with our principles and missions, and we will continue to protect and collaborate with our partners regardless of the person's race, ethnicity, national origin, protected class, or civil immigration status. The California Values Act restricts state and local law enforcement agencies from using their resources on federal immigration enforcement. Most of these restrictions align with the long-standing LAPD policies and practices to promote community partnerships, enhance public safety, and the LAPD upheld these same values since before the California Values Act was established in 2018, codifying fundamental civil right protections in writing as far back as 1979. So for 2025, the LAPD participated in 25 task forces. 12 of those task forces involved DHS. 13 of those task forces did not involve DHS. And out of those 25 task forces, there was 1,409 arrests. There was 419 detainer requests, and zero were given. And there was 16 warrants related to immigration that we did uphold. Out of those 419 detainer requests, none were honored, and we honored no ICE interviews. In 2024, I want to reassure that our communities that were fully compliant with the Chief's Notice of Immigration Enforcement Procedures and the California State's Values Act. LAPD has participated in joint operations with federal enforcement partners. However, our primary purpose for any joint task force is not civil immigration or immigration related. All investigation activity is strictly involved for violations of federal or state law unrelated to immigration. These task forces resulted in the 1,409 arrests for violent and serious crimes committed against Angelenos and were not related to any civil immigration. The LAPD maintains joint operations with the ATF, FBI, Secret Service, U.S. Marshals, sustaining a professional relationship with federal partners, none of which, again, are immigration related. The goal of these collaborations to address violent crimes, gang activity, weapons violation, narcotics trafficking, gun trafficking, human trafficking, and counterterrorism. Periodically, individuals encountered during these course of investigations are discovered to have outstanding warrants for immigration-related offenses. And in 2025, there was 16 of those such immigrations. And I want to personally say that I review all the warrants and approve the booking for these, but these were all warrants signed by federal judges. We are proud to report that the Los Angeles Police Department has not made no civil immigration enforcement arrests and complies with Executive Order 17, SB 54, and the Sanctuary City policies. We will continue to make arrests for serious and violent crimes that impact the safety of Los Angeles community members and the city. And this data summarizes all the data collected from the Office of Operation, Counterterrorism, and Special Operations Bureau and Detective Bureau. And again, to summarize, in 2025, LAPD participated in 25 multi-agency task forces, resulting in 1,409 arrests of violent felons. The LAPD's efforts will continue to support our immigrant communities. Equally alongside all others, we take responsibility to ensure efforts are made to address the challenges in our city faces, and we hold accountable to every person who commits predatory crimes against our residents. The LAPD will continue to work with the community advocates on issues affecting trust, especially within the undocumented residents. I want to thank you, commissioners, for your time, and now available for any questions.
Thank you. I'll start with Commissioner Scobin.
A little bit procedural question, Chief. On any task forces that the department participates in with federal agencies, are there any payments or reimbursement to the city for any salaries, equipment, or other expenses?
Right now, I was concentrating on the SB 54 and the ED 17. I'm not prepared to answer the financial questions. I apologize.
Okay. It'd be interesting to understand that, just because the fiscal state of the city and our budgets are always at the top of conversation. It'd be interesting just to understand the financial impact these joint task force.
I think it's very important, but I wasn't prepared to answer that. Apologize.
Okay, Commissioner Tabor? No questions. Commissioner Sanchez-Gordon?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I've seen similar reports of this in the past and have had many questions in the past, but I think it's at a point where now I understand how it is that you're collecting this information and accounting for it, and appreciate the report, and also appreciate both the personal comments that you made at the beginning, as well as the summary of the department's efforts to build the trust with the community. So appreciate that. With that, I would move that we approve the department's report. Is there a second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you. We'll now move to regular agenda item number 4E, the report of the executive director on City Council file number 20-0875.
Thank you, Madam President. So I want to just take a few minutes to brief the commissioners on a vote that was taken last week in City Council that relates to the topic of pretext stops. So the department currently has a policy that regulates the use of pretext stops. That policy limits pretext stops to circumstances where officers have articulable or an articulable basis to use that technique in the investigation of a serious crime, such as a burglary or a DUI or a crime of violence. It also, in the same policy, limits the use of enforcement of traffic stops, or focuses the use of traffic stops on issues that are of concern from a public safety standpoint. So going to last week, on May 6th, the Council took up a report from the Ad Hoc Committee on Unarmed Crisis Prevention, Intervention and Community Services, which reported to the City Council on traffic enforcement alternatives and related matters. The City Council voted unanimously with a couple of amendments to adopt the recommended action in that report, which I will summarize for you briefly, along incorporating in my summary the amendments that were approved by the City Council. So the City Council's action requests that the Board of Police Commissioners amend our current policy on pretext stops to replace the existing limitation policy with what it terms strengthened guidance and additional prohibitions, quote, to ensure fair treatment and efficient deployment of resources. Perhaps most notably, that request is that the policy be amended to prohibit pretextual stops of motorists and cyclists, while affirming LAPD's authority to conduct stops for traffic violations that endanger public safety and for reasonable and articulable suspicion of crimes, and that the policy be amended to prohibit consent-based searches of persons, vehicles, or personal effects during traffic stops unless the search is supported by a valid warrant or criminal investigation, probable cause, or other lawful justifications independent of consent, and these justifications of the consent-based search would have to be documented on body-worn video. The request goes on to say that we should ensure, or that policy should ensure compliance with California Assembly Bill 2773, which is a bill that requires officers to state the reason when for a traffic stop before they question the driver. It goes on to request that the policy ensure compliance with the implementation of Assembly Bill 2147 from 2022, which is the change in the law that decriminalized jaywalking. It goes on to request that the council be reported with a report back with the assistance of the city attorney on the process and necessary steps to implement a mail-based notification system that would allow certain traffic violations, allowing vehicle owners to receive violations by mail in lieu of an officer-initiated stop. Under this framework, the vehicle owner would still be responsible for correcting or otherwise remedying the violation. The report should outline any moving equipment and non-moving violations eligible for mail-in enforcement. Additionally, the request is that the Board of Police Commissioners and the Chief of the Los Angeles Police Department update officer training to reflect this policy regarding pretextual stops and consent-based searches, including procedural justice measures to ensure that individuals clearly understand their rights and the nature of the encounter, methods for proper documentation and compliance. It requests additionally that the Office of the Inspector General monitor LAPD traffic stop data, incorporating findings from audit divisions, compliance audits and the stops review, and provide semi-annual reports to the City Council on the effectuation of this policy, including analyzing the feasibility of updating LAPD's public traffic dashboard to distinctly track and display pretextual stop data. So that is the City Council's request of this commission, and I can answer any questions about the motion that you may have. I think the purpose today isn't to evaluate the desirability or otherwise of any particular detail of what's being requested, but to ensure that the commissioners are familiar with the content of the motion that was passed by the City Council.
And there was a verbal motion and amended motion as well.
There
correct?
was indeed, and in fact, thank you for mentioning that, Commissioner, because I neglected to mention the verbal amendment, which was also adopted by the City Council. And let me just get my copy of that to ensure that I'm accurately characterizing it. But this was a verbal amendment which indicates that pretextual stops that do not endanger public safety include, but are not limited to, stops for vehicle equipment violations and non-moving administrative violations unless the vehicle does not have a rear license plate or the violation substantially increases the likelihood of imminent injury or death. So that is a significant broadening of the definition of a pretext stop as compared to the current definition. And that was, like I say, both the written amendment and the verbal amendment were unanimously adopted by the City Council.
Sorry, and with the last page, I think 5C, is that the additional recommendations made by Tim McCosker.
Yes, and as I summarized them, I
incorporated that
into the description.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Okay. Before I turn it over to any questions, this is, we wanted to put this on the agenda so that we can make sure that the commission is aware of this, motion, and then also so that we can ask for further information from both the department and also I think we need the help of our executive director and inspector general to report back to us. So I'd ask first the department report back to us about the impact of these proposals, both on the department's existing policy as well as its operations and public safety, so that because some of this was seeming like ensuring that things that may already be in place are done. So I want to know, what is the difference between the existing policy and the proposals, and how the department views the impact on its operations and public safety on those things. And then I'd also like to work with the executive director and inspector general to identify other presentations that would be useful for us to have here and consider as we evaluate potential changes to the pretext stop policy. So I'll move it to Commissioner Tabor. Any questions?
Thank you, Madam President. Your last comment and instruction or question to the Inspector General and the Executive Director actually helped me understand a little bit more what our next step in this process will be. What I don't see in the council resolution or in the amendments to the council resolution, and perhaps that's because it's reflected in our responsibility, so I want to include it here, that we think not only of the training, as that Councilman McCosker suggests, that the officers receive to better understand and better implement the policy, but we also line it up with appropriate accountability. And as we're also at this time looking at upgrading and revising the appropriate disciplinary policies throughout the department, that we make sure that we include the appropriate response to any transgression that may occur when the policy is in place, when the officers have received training, and when we are trying to ensure that we have followed the guidelines and the department has followed the guidelines, so that we know we can be very clear very upfront and very clear with all officers, the public, and the audience that comes before our commission about what we intend to do to enforce the policy and to respect the wishes of both the commission and the mayor and council.
Thank you. Commissioner Sanchez-Gordon.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I just want to remind the Commission and everyone that Push LA made a presentation in March. Chauncey was here. He reminded us of that. And I haven't heard. And then along with that presentation, Assistant Chief Tangeridis and Commander White also presented that same day and talked about and reported on the LAPD data. Which is a lot of the data was used in the Push LA presentation. I think that the unanimous vote by the City Council last week is on these protectional stops is very clear. I think they didn't order the commission because they can't order us. But they made a strong request of this commission to adopt new guidelines. One of the city council people said, there are no excuses, get it done, we are watching you. So, that puts a lot of pressure on us, but it's not pressure on something that we are not dealing with. I think the commission has begun to deal with this since the Push LA made their presentation. I think it was very informative, both Push LA and the presentation by LAPD. And I think it put this item on front and forward on our tasks as an oversight committee, because if you listen to the public comment of the community at last week's hearing at the City Council, it's across the board. It's Black, it's brown community that are being impacted by what they are calling pretext stops. So now the City Council has adopted a campaign, Stop the Stops. We heard from the president of City Council come here and for 8 minutes talk to us about what happened to him as a Black man driving a city car. So this is not, just a make-believe stuff. This is real. It's happening in our community. And I think the City Council, our commission here has a strong obligation to act on it now. I was doing a little research on this, and there was a consent decree back in 2001 that talked specifically about these kinds of stops. And it was during the days of Chief Bernard Parks, and that consent decree of 2001. So, somebody says, oh, it's 2016 or 2006. No, it really goes back to 2001. And I think that if we look at the consent decree of that time, it is exactly what we are talking about now. Nothing has changed. There is clear guidelines. Obviously, they're not being followed because we're now here talking about it again and being almost ordered by City Council to do something now. So I don't want another lawsuit. These lawsuits are outrageous. I was going over the lawsuit report today, and these lawsuits are just impacting our city tremendously. So to avoid another federal lawsuit, all we have to do is go back to the language of the 2001 consent decree and abide by it. And I don't think it would be that difficult. So I am really committed to moving forward on these pretextual stop requests by the City Council, and I think that our community needs it. And I don't think it's just limited to Black and Brown City residents. I think the entire community may be impacted by it. So I guess it's a comment because I really, I don't think that there are more questions that need to be asked. We have our marching orders. Let's do it.
Thank you, Commissioner Scobin.
No, I look forward to the interactive process to really come to a decision on this. I guess my question is there's some certain information in past presentations that have either been said that need clarification as we, put this through our due diligence. Would it be appropriate to kind of ask those now or at a later date that they be included on future reports by the department? Later. Okay. Okay. I'll keep them here. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes, I think, the number 4E. There was no action taken. We'll just file the executive director's report, and we will await the report. Ma'am, you've already had an opportunity to speak. And the commission will now recess into closed session to discuss items 5A1 and 5A2. The commission has returned from closed session, and I'll ask the executive director, Mr. Sibley, to please report on the closed session items.
Thank you, Madam President. At the regular meeting of the Board of Police Commissioners on May 12th, 2026, during the closed session, the board made the following findings, in each case by a 4-0 vote. So, referring here to item 5A1, officer-involved shooting, case number 024-25. For tactics, tactical debrief, 1 Sergeant 1, 1 Police Officer 3, 3 Police Officers 2, and 1 Police Officer 1. For drawing an exhibition of a firearm, in policy, no further action, 1 Police Officer 3, 3 Police Officers 2, and 1 Police Officer 1. For intermediate use of force, in policy, no further action, 1 Police Officer 2, and 1 Police Officer 1. And for lethal use of force, in policy, no further action, 1 Police Officer 3. And go into case, or to item 5A2, which is law enforcement related injury case number 036-25. For tactics, tactical debrief, 1 Police Officer 2. And for the intermediate use of force, in policy, no further action, 1 Police Officer 2. And that concludes the report out.
Thank you. And I move that we adjourn the meeting. Is there a second? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.